Tatalakayin natin sa videong ito ang mga paraan ng paggamit ng CVIF Dynamic Learning Program o DLP sa tatlong konteksto. Una, kung ang mga guro at mag-aaral ay may device at internet. Ikalawa, kung mayroon silang device ngunit limited lang ang internet. At ikatlo ay kung walang access sa device at internet. Kung may device at internet connection ang guro at ang estudyante. Step 1. Ipapadala ni teacher ang learning activity sheet kada linggo sa mag-aaral gamit ang email o Facebook Messenger o iba pang online platform gaya ng Google Classroom o Microsoft Teams. Step 2. Kokopyahin ng mag-aaral ang natanggap na learning activity sheet sa isang blank sheet of paper. Uunawain ang lesson for the day at sasagutang mag-isa ang required exercises. Ito ay dapat matapos ng mag-aaral sa loob ng takdang oras na nakalaan para sa subject na iyon. Step 3. Kukunan ng litrato ng mag-aaral ang natapos na learning activity sheet at ipapadala ito pabalik kay teacher gamit ang email o Facebook Messenger o iba pang online platform gaya ng Google Classroom o Microsoft Teams. Ang hard copies ng learning activity sheets na natapos ay dapat i-compile ng mag-aaral sa isang folder kada subject. Step 4. Kapag natanggap na ni teacher ang natapos na learning activity sheet, maaari na siyang mag-online discussion sa mga mag-aaral gamit ang Facebook o Zoom o iba pang online platforms upang i-process ang lesson na natutunan ng mga mag-aaral ng mag-isa. Kung may device pero limited ang internet connection ng mga guro at ng mga estudyante, ang ibig sabihin ng limited internet connection ay gumagamit ng mobile data kaya't di maaari ang full online classes. Step 1. Itatype ng teacher ang learning activity para sa Facebook Messenger at ipapadala ito sa mag-aaral. Sa paraang ito ay hindi mababawasan ang load ng teacher at mag-aaral. Step 2. Kokopyahin ng mag-aaral ang natanggap na learning activity sa isang blank sheet of paper. Uunawain ang lesson for the day at sasagutang mag-isa ang required exercises. Ito ay dapat matapos ng mag-aaral sa loob ng takdang oras na nakalaan para sa subject na iyon. Step 3. Itatype ng mag-aaral ang mga sagot sa exercises sa Facebook Messenger at ipapadala kay teacher. Ang hard copies ng learning activity sheets na natapos ay dapat i-compile ng mag-aaral sa isang folder kada subject. Step 4. Kapag natanggap na ni teacher ang sagot sa mga exercises para sa nakatakdang learning activity, maaari siyang mag-discuss sa mag-aaral gamit pa rin ang Facebook Messenger. Kung walang device at internet connection, Step 1. Ipiprint ng teacher ang mga learning activity sheets para sa isang linggo at ipapadala ang hard copy sa mag-aaral. Ito ay maaaring kunin ng mga magulang sa paaralan o di kaya sa tulong ng barangay ay ide-deliver ito sa kanilang bahay. Step 2. Kokopyahin ng mag-aaral ang natanggap na learning activity sa isang blank sheet of paper. Uunawain ang lesson for the day at sasagutang mag-isa ang required exercises. Ito ay dapat matapos ng mag-aaral sa loob ng takdang oras na nakalaan para sa subject na iyon. Step 3. Iko-compile ng mag-aaral ang mga natapos na learning activity sheets sa isang folder kada subject. Step 4. Sa tulong ng mga magulang o ng barangay, ibabalik sa teacher kada linggo ang mga natapos na learning activity sheets ng mag-aaral at papalitan ito ng mga bagong learning activity sheets para sa susunod na linggo. Kahit walang teacher intervention, may matututunan ang mag-aaral basta't ginagawa niya ang mga learning activities na nakatakda. Ang CVIF Dynamic Learning Program o DLP ay maaaring gamiting pamamaraan ng pagtuturo kung may device at internet, kung may device pero limited ang internet, at kahit walang device o internet. Para sa karagdagang impormasyon sa CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, bisitahin lamang ang dlp.ph na website o hanapin lang ang Dynamic Learning Program sa Facebook o magpadala ng email sa learnsmart@smart.com.ph.
The CVIF Dynamic Learning Program is a proven effective teaching strategy specifically designed to work around the socio-economic challenges of the country, such as large classes, lack of qualified teachers, budget limitations, as well as disasters and emergency situations. A Learn Smart program of wireless services provider Smart Communications Inc. and supported by PLDT Smart Foundation for over a decade, CVIF-DLP was endorsed by the Department of Education this 2020 as a flexible learning option in the new normal. Developed by Ramon Magsaysay awardees and world-renowned theoretical physicists Dr. Christopher C. Bernido and Dr. Maria Victoria Carpio Bernido of the Central Visayan Institute Foundation in Hagna, Bohol. CVIF-DLP requires minimal teacher intervention as it trains students to be independent learners.
We've been asked about the future of education. It has to be somewhere in between the purely online and the traditional way of teaching. There's a sweet spot in between. That's exactly where the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program is located.
CVIF-DLP's main instructional tools are the well-designed Learning Activity Sheets or LAS. They present bite-sized lessons with practice activities that slowly progress. The concept notes and exercises are all handwritten by the students. These learning activity sheets are then compiled to make up the students' portfolio.
It's very important to focus on the learning activity sheets, the preparation, the dissemination, and the accomplishment of the learning activity sheets by the students. This forms the core of the learning process, and the students will be learning basically independently when they do the LAS.
Since its implementation in 2002, CVIF-DLP schools have noted improvements in students' academic performance and study habits, producing quality graduates along the years. This year, more schools are experiencing the benefits of this teaching strategy from the teachers, students, parents, and communities.
To those who have started to implement the CVIF-DLP, welcome to the CVIF-DLP family. Our goal is not just to be happy as administrators, not just to be happy as teachers, but to make sure that our learners achieve high learner outcomes with no learner left behind.
I maintain that for the foreseeable future, the CVIF DLP is the way to go for the 21st century.
Good afternoon to our participants and guests. Welcome to Day 2 of CVIF Dynamic Learning Program event for the onboarding of our teachers to a crisis-resilient pedagogy. We will begin the program shortly. For our attendees on Zoom, we invite you to please keep your video cameras on, but mute your microphones during the program. Please use the chat box for any questions or clarifications. For our online audience on the DepEd Philippines Facebook page and YouTube channel, please post your questions in the live stream comments. We look forward to seeing you shortly.
PLDT in Smart Communities is the company's corporate shared value program that delivers positive impact to the communities we serve, bridging the digital divide so Filipinos can live a fuller life through technology. With Malasakit as our strength, we strive to foster collaboration and unity across diverse communities, enabling meaningful connections to ensure that no one is left behind. It is this profound sense of malasakit that propels us to go the extra mile to ensure the safety and connectivity of our fellow citizens amidst disasters and emergencies.
Love is a word that you don't often use in a corporate setting. But each time you give a ligtas kit to those communities, you give the gift of love. And you help save those lives, you help those people. When you go to sleep at night, you can just rest assured that those people are leading more secure, safer lives because of you.
We help create a safe and smart Philippines by equipping communities with vital disaster preparedness skills, communications aid to bridge connections among families, and much-needed relief to those in need. In the face of widening gaps in education, Malasakit moves us to leverage our technology and innovations to narrow the educational divide. We equip learners, even in underserved communities, with access to transformative digital resources, inclusive educational content, and technopreneurship to help foster a landscape where no learner is left behind.
The CVIF kits served its purpose in improving the teaching and learning processes in those schools who have benefited from the CVIF kits.
When marginalized communities struggle to make ends meet, Malasakit compels us to harness the power of technology to help bolster their livelihood opportunities. We usher communities into the digital knowledge and economy by upskilling them on digital entrepreneurship and e-commerce, thereby expanding their economic horizon.
Back then, we are just thinking about planting seeds of knowledge on digital agriculture. Little did we know that DFP will become a tree of possibilities in the advancement of the entire agriculture and fisheries sector. Perhaps this is a very good testament of a partnership between private and public sector.
In the face of increasing cyber threats amid an always-on and always-connected society, Malasakit drives us to create safe spaces online, nurturing growth and protecting the vulnerable. We advocate for internet safety, mental well-being, and online child protection through policy, technology, awareness, and community engagements to ensure that Filipinos, especially the youth, have a safe and secure digital experience.
Our work is not yet over. We need to approach this problem with all actors working together to ensure a safe digital environment where all children enjoy the full benefits of the digital economy, free from harm and from danger.
Our ethos of inclusion compels us to address the diverse needs of all segments of society. Malasakit urges us to use technology in empowering indigenous cultural communities, women, people with disabilities, the elderly, and religious minorities through strategic partnerships and deploying tailored digital initiatives which foster holistic well-being and societal integration.
Joint technology-based inclusion program for our indigenous peoples cannot be overstated. These programs are instrumental in leveling the playing field and fostering a more inclusive society. Together, we can create a future where every individual has equal access to success and prosperity.
At the heart of PLDT and SMART lies a commitment to inspire innovation and cultivate meaningful connections that transcend generations. We remain steadfast in our pursuit of building a better and smarter world where every Filipino can thrive and contribute towards a brighter and purpose-filled tomorrow for all.
Good afternoon, partners, guests, and colleagues, and to all of you who are joining us on our live stream. May we request everyone to observe a few minutes of silence for our prayer.
O God, the creator of the heavens and the universe, guide us to the right path. May our efforts be blessed with insight, understanding, wisdom, and respect for all. May our deep faith in you give us strength to act honestly and well in all matters before us. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang
Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Good day. My name is David Rioferio, and I will be your host for today. I've always held the belief that education has the greatest capacity to reshape lives. As we all know, the rewards of learning are lifelong. Bago po tayo magsimula ngayong hapon, please allow me to greet all of our guests on Zoom and those who are tuning in via our live streaming on DepEd Philippines Facebook and YouTube. This live streaming is also being shared on PLDT and Smart Communities Facebook page. We are privileged to welcome our dedicated teachers and DepEd officials from across the country. Welcome to our Day 2 of the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, Onboarding of Teachers to a Crisis-Resilient Teaching Pedagogy. Friends, as we all monitor the news about Typhoon Marce, we are also praying for the safety of our kababayans in the north. Recent weeks have been marked by significant challenges. The powerful, severe Tropical Storm Kristine affected millions of people nationwide. Despite these difficulties, we observed the strength and unity of communities as they supported one another. The recent difficulties have compelled us to be creative and adaptable. Just as severe Tropical Storm Kristine necessitated innovative solutions and communication, we must similarly adjust our teaching methods to ensure continued student engagement and learning. As we come together to ensure that there is no learner left behind, let's get to know a teaching strategy called CVIF Dynamic Learning Program that has already been proven to be crisis and even pandemic resilient. Mamaya po, our experienced ambassadors of CVIF-DLP will provide insights into their implementation of the said framework. They will share valuable lessons that can guide your own application of this teaching strategy. We will explore learning activity sheets, or LAS, which is the heart and soul of the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program. Ito pong mga LAS break down complex concepts into easy-to-understand lessons, enabling students to learn independently with limited teacher intervention. Kaya umpisahan na po natin to formally welcome us on our Day 2. May we call on Honorable Malcolm S. Garma, Assistant Secretary for Field Operations of the Department of Education. Ase.
Good morning or good afternoon po sa lahat ng ating pong mga participants for today's activity that will focus on our orientation on the use of our DLP, particularly yung ating pong learner activity sheets sa lahat po ng mga regions that were affected by the recent Typhoon Kristine. But before we proceed to that activity, we would like to thank our longtime partner in education, Smart PLDT, and of course, our partners, our ambassadors from the implementing schools of the Dynamic Learning Program, particularly Dr. Chris Bernido, who started the Dynamic Learning Program. So, this orientation will give us more information on how we can adapt the learn activity sheets that will be used by our schools, either in terms of the makeup classes that they will be conducting, so that we will be able to compensate yung ating pong mga lost class hours because of the suspension of classes due to the typhoon. Pangalawa, we also would like to see how we can use the dynamic learning program, learn activity sheets, kung ang ating pong mga mag-aaral ay hindi pa po makakabalik sa kanilang mga paaralan. So, malalaman natin kung paano ang mga schools na ito ay na gumamit ng DLP ay nagamit itong activity sheets na ito habang ang mga bata ay nasa kanilang mga tahanan. Pangatlo, we would like to also explore the possibility of using the dynamic learning program learn activity sheets in terms of creating a more creative space inside our classrooms, a way of innovating the way we deliver instruction. So ito pong mga paraan na ito ay tinitingnan natin upang sa ganon ay makahanap tayo ng mga solusyon upang matugunan natin yung possible learning loss again after the COVID. And now we are experiencing a lot of class suspensions because of the typhoons. In fact, after Kristine, we are again bracing ourselves for another typhoon. At seemingly, ito na po yung ating mga aasahan sa mga darating na panahon. Kaya maganda na tayo po ay matuto mula po sa ating mga partners, at maibahagi nila sa atin kung paano nila nagamit ito sa iba't ibang pamamaraan. So again, would like to welcome our participants. We'd like to thank our regional directors of Regions 1, 2, 3, the Cordillera Autonomous Region, Calabarzon, and Region 5, Bicol. So for giving us the opportunity to be able to share this with you, our dear teachers, our dear members of the DepEd family in the affected regions of Typhoon Kristine, to share with you the information on how we can help our schools recover from a possible learning loss due to the class suspensions. So we'd like to thank also, of course, our secretary, our good secretary, Sec Sani Angara, for really pushing for the implementation of the DLP and really supporting us and the schools na tayo po ay makatugon dito sa sunod-sunod na mga pangyayari. Hindi lamang sa pamamagitan ng alternative delivery mode, but of course, the support that we are getting from the leadership and the administration of Seksani na tugunan yung mga napinsala ng mga classrooms, at yung mapalitan yung mga kagamitan sa paaralan na nasalanta o nasira dahil sa bagyo at pagbaha. So muli, we'd like to welcome and thank you despite of the busy times and of course the situation that you are in right now in the most affected areas. You have time to join us and learn. So maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikisa, at ito po ay bagamat kalahating araw lang po ito natin gagawin, at pilitin po natin na sa loob ng kalahating araw ay marami po tayong malaman at matutunan. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Sec Malcolm S. Garma. Saan nga ba nagsimula ang CVIF Dynamic Learning Program? Alamin natin mula sa isang theoretical physicist and Ramon Magsaysay Awardee for Education, the proponent of the program, Dr. Christopher C. Bernito.
Para po sa mga kasamahan ko sa edukasyon, magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Ang Pilipinas po ay nadadaanan ng mga 18 to 20 typhoons bawat taon at ang Pilipinas ay nasa tinatawag na Pacific Ring of Fire. Marami pong earthquakes. Kaya marami pong nararamdaman natin at na-experience na mga suspension of classes, learning loss, every year. Kaya dapat matugunan po ito at mabigyan ng solusyon. At sa tingin ko po ay meron kaming maidudulot na solusyon para dito sa continuous suspension of classes every year na tinatawag na CVIF Dynamic Learning Program. Ang CVIF po ay nagkakahulugang Central Visayan Institute Foundation kung saan nanggaling itong programa na ito. 22 years na po itong CVIF Dynamic Learning Program or DLP at more than 1,000 schools in the Philippines have implemented the DLP in the elementary, high school at saka college level. Bakit po ito maganda para sa mga kapag may mga typhoons, baha o earthquake? Subok na po itong CVIF-DLP kagaya nung nakaraang Zamboanga siege, nung nagkaroon ng gera sa Zamboanga ng 2 linggo. Yung mga DLP implementing schools po ay tuloy-tuloy ang kanilang pag-aaral kahit na close down o walang pasok po. Ganun na rin po ang mga typhoons o baha na dumaan sa Mindanao. Nababaha yung mga bahay ng mga teachers pero tuloy-tuloy ang pag-aaral ng mga bata. Dahil po ang pinaka buod ng DLP ay independent learning. Minimal po ang teacher intervention at ang programa ay naka-address from the challenged learners all the way to the bright learners. Ang heart and soul po ng DLP ay yung tinatawag na Learning Activity Sheets or LAS na tinatawag natin. Ito po ay isang pahina lang, 1 page, 1 concept, isang konsepto, isang pahina, bite size, at there are several LAS step by step to reach a learning competency na gusto ng DepEd. So, ang importante lang po sa LAS na pag nakaabot ito sa mga kabataan kahit nasa bahay sila ay kanilang kokopyahin. This has to be copied by hand, handwritten in their own by hand to ensure that there is deep learning going on when going through the LAS. At itong mga LAS na to, hinahatid at binabalik normally once a week kahit walang pasok. Gaya ng naalala ko, ang Davao Christian High School na nag-implement ng DLP since 2005. Nung nagkaroon ng pandemic, nung 2020, nag-text sa akin po yung head ng Davao Christian High School. Sabi nila, maraming salamat po at dahil sa DLP, we had a smooth transition to the pandemic and the lockdown. So, subok na po itong DLP at i-explain during the orientation, may mag-explain po sa inyo step by step kung paano ipapaabot yung LAS sa mga kabataan. Importante lang po na dapat kopyahin ito ng mga bata at itong accomplished LAS ibabalik sa mga teachers. Ang role po ng mga teachers this time, hindi na po yung pagle-lecture, kundi sa assessment na po ng LAS. So, ako po yung nagagalak at nakadalo kayo sa orientation na to na ginawa ng Smart Communications. Maraming salamat po sa Smart Communications. Good luck po. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Chris. Again, magandang araw po sa lahat ng kasama namin dito sa Zoom at sa mga libu-libong nanonood po sa Facebook at sa YouTube. Kanina nabanggit ni Director Michael, nakaka 12,000 na tayo na mga delegates since yesterday. So, inaasahan po natin na tataas pa ito at we're so happy dahil makakatulong ang CVIF, Dynamic Learning Program at ang paggamit itong learning activity sheets sa inyong mga makeup classes at patuloy pang pagtuturo sa mga bata. Ayun po, we thank you, Dr. Chris, who with his late wife, Dr. Maria Victoria Carpio Bernido, a distinguished theoretical physicist and Ramon Magsaysay Awardee for Education, established the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program. Meanwhile, we are also honored to welcome one of our long-standing partners of the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, Their commitment to supporting this teaching strategy dates back to 2010, when they began providing capacity building to teachers and schools interested in adopting the said program. Through this partnership with PLDT and Smart Communications Inc., CVIF-DLP has expanded its reach to indigenous peoples education, Arabic language and Islamic values education, alternative learning system, and special needs education. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Stephanie Orlino, AVP and Head of Stakeholder Management of PLDT and Smart.
Thank you, Dave. Magandang hapon sa lahat ng nakikinig ngayon sa DepEd Philippines Facebook page at YouTube channel at sa aming mga followers sa PLDT and Smart Communities Facebook. On behalf of PLDT and Smart, I would like to thank the Department of Education for supporting the expansion of the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, na isang innovative at disaster-resilient strategy of teaching that improves learners' outcomes despite the many challenges and disruptions faced by schools. We at PLDT and Smart have been supporting DLP since 2010. Mula pa noong magawaran si Dr. Christopher Bernido and the late Dr. Marivic Carpio Bernido ng Ramon Magsaysay Award in Education. This is because we truly believe and have seen evidence of its transformative power in education. This pedagogy promotes independent student learning na mahalaga sa STEM. Ito ay low budget, it works in face-to-face, hybrid, or distance learning, can work in online, radio-based, TV, and modular instructions. It is applicable to all levels and caters to all learners, and it ensures that authentic teaching and learning continues despite disruptions, katulad itong dulot ng severe Tropical Storm Kristine. The impact of the recent storm has once again underscored the need to work together to support our teachers and students and to find innovative approaches to stave off further learning losses. To date, there are more than 1,000 schools already implementing the Dynamic Learning Program at nakapag-train na rin kami ng mahigit na 16,000 na teachers. We hope that the program will also bring much needed relief and support to our teachers here today who have been affected by the storm and to those belonging to other regions also tuning in today. Again, thank you to the Department of Education for the opportunity to provide assistance. I affirm our longtime commitment to support the department in providing access to inclusive and quality education for all. Thank you as well to our DLP ambassadors for their time, expertise, and passionate advocacy in propagating this good news. We at PLDT and Smart will be here to work with you every step of the way to help ensure that no learner is left behind. Thank you.
Maraming salamat po, Ms. Steph. Before we proceed, we kindly request all Zoom participants to turn on their cameras for a group photo. Ladies and gentlemen, our technical team will be capturing this moment, so kindly ensure that your cameras are on. Para naman po sa mga attendees namin na nandoon sa Facebook at nasa YouTube, please take a groupie and then i-post po ninyo sa comment section and tell us where you're watching from. Salamat po.
All right. May you please open your cameras and please hold your beautiful smiles. I'll take a photo. 1, 2, 3, smile. One more. Smile. Page 2 tayo. 1, 2, 3, smile. Alright, all good. Thank you.
Okay, maraming salamat po. Again, pinapaalalahanan namin kayo dyan sa Facebook, sa YouTube, at dito sa Zoom. Isulat po ninyo yung mga tanong ninyo habang tayo nagkakaroon ng discussion or record nyo sa inyong phone para po, or you can directly put it in the chat box and comment section para masagot po natin after the presentation during the Q&A. At this point, let's all get to know what CVIF Dynamic Learning Program is. To help us understand how this teaching strategy helps develop independent learners, let's all welcome Desi Dario Magnaye, Campus Director of Davao Christian High School. Their school has been implementing DLP Since 2005, a total of 19 years. Sir Desi?
Thank you, Sir Dave. Isang magandang hapon po sa ating lahat, sa ating mga masisipag na guro. Salamat sa pagdalo sa ating learning session tungkol sa CVIF-DLP. First, I would like to express my appreciation for this opportunity to share our CVIF-DLP story. Today, we hope to have a better understanding of the CVIF-DLP framework by discussing the 4 program components which make up the program. We'll also have an in-depth discussion on the Learning Activity Sheet, or LAS, which is the main instructional tool in CVIF-DLP. This year brings a milestone for us in Davao Christian High School, as this is our 20th year of implementing CVIF-DLP. Meeting the Bernidos and learning about the program is a blessing. When the school decided to implement it in 2005, many were surprised. Our biggest consideration of implementing the program in DCHS is how we notice the changes in how students learn. We wanted to ensure that as in the many challenges facing our educational system, our students are still learning. So our mission is to provide a well-rounded Christian education to develop students to become useful and responsible citizens imbued with high Christian ideals. Davao Christian High School currently has 2 campuses and serves the needs of 3,100 plus students from preschool to senior high school. Our CVIF-DLP story started as a leap of faith when we adopted it in 2005 with modifications. When we say we, this means the teachers' corporate decision and our school administrators' support. In 2008, we became part of the pilot implementation of learning physics as one nation. Our physics classes implemented all the program components, showing that our students could learn difficult physics concepts and principles on their own. 2012 was when we had to rethink our implementation and decided to heed the Bernidos recommendation to include LAS writing in all subjects. So dito po sinabi ni Sir Chris and ni Ma'am Marivic yung halaga ng pagsusulat. Write-shops are also regularly conducted so that teachers are reminded of the non-negotiables. The lockdown in 2020 abruptly shifted our classes online. Teachers and students had to adjust to a new learning modality while ensuring that effective teaching and learning continued. CVIF-DLP prepared us to trust that our students are capable of learning on their own, even if we are not with them 100% of the time. Currently, we implement a hybrid learning modality using the CVIF-DLP approach. Next slide, please. Considered a package of solutions to boost learning, CVIF-DLP is a teaching pedagogy created by Filipino theoretical physicists and Filipino educators, Drs. Christopher and Maria Victoria Carpio Bernido. It is a synthesis of classical and modern pedagogical theories adapted to foster the highest level of learning, creativity, and productivity. As a teaching method, it is disaster resilient because through CVIF-DLP, learning was able to continue even after natural calamities, tulad nung merong Typhoon Sendong in Cagayan de Oro City in 2011 at nung Bohol earthquake in 2013. And even during the pandemic, when students and teachers were not allowed to go to school. It is also a low-budget yet effective educational program that is suitable for large classes, requires less textbooks and science equipment, reduces teaching personnel requirements, less dependence on the abilities and personalities of teachers, and has built-in notes for teacher self-evaluation and professional advancement, and has built-in checks of dysfunctional behavior common in the Filipinos. As Secretary Angara said, no student's education has to pause when challenges arise. And we hope that CVIF-DLP can help in ensuring that learning continues even in these less ideal situations. What you see on the screen is an illustration, a very important illustration that describes CVIF-DLP as a teaching pedagogy that promotes independent student learning, because it creates a paradigm shift where teacher-centered activities only comprise 20 to 30% of the class time, while the remaining time is used for independent student activities. This is very different from the conventional approach
where majority of the time is allotted for lecture discussions, where we are uncertain if students are engaged or are paying attention. Next slide, please. Thus, in CVIF-DLP, the duty of our teachers is not to teach, but enable students to learn. As teachers, we are not only concerned in the delivery of our lessons, pero ang mas mahalaga is if our teaching translates to student learning, kung meron bang natututuhan ang ating mga estudyante sa ating tinuturo. Furthermore, CVIF-DLP believes that our students are capable of learning independently. So the next slides will briefly explain to us how each component addresses the learner's disposition as habit-forming protocols are developed. Tulad po nung sinabi ko kanina, may 4 na program components ang CVIF-DLP. We'll try to discuss this one by one para po mas maintindihan natin ang kanyang importance in implementing the program para po ito maging effective. So the first program component is what we call activity-based multi-domain learning. So in this component, we expect students to accomplish learning activities independently. So to think deeply about a lesson, a student must go through a thinking process without any distractions. Thus, enough time is needed to write and accomplish the learning activity sheet or LAS. An LAS is a well-prepared independent activity expressing the basic idea to be learned by the student. The LAS must be given prior to the lecture to allow students to develop their critical thinking and problem-solving skills. LAS writing also makes majority of learning individualized, since everyone must copy it by hand. This helps the teacher identify what part of the lesson the student finds easy or difficult, allowing him to tailor fit the discussion. Review of answers is also facilitated. We will discuss more the vital role that LAS plays in CVIF-DLP later. What we have prepared for you are some samples of LAS from different subjects. Can I request you to move 2 slides back po muna? One more po. Okay. So the one you see on the left is what the teachers have prepared. Ito po ay isang example ng isang science learning activity about gravitational potential energy. And what you see on the right is an actual LAS accomplished by one of our students. So kung titingnan po ninyo, they look exactly the same because students are expected to copy and draw whatever is in the LAS that was prepared by the teacher. Notice also that the student will copy everything from the title to the learning target until the questions at the end. The next slide will show us an example of a learning activity in Araling Panlipunan. Ang topic po nito ay yung different religions in Southeast Asia. Students also have to copy everything and answer the 2 questions that follow. The next slide is a math learning activity about factoring the sum and difference of 2 cubes. This lesson is about the different factoring methods, and for this particular LAS, the focus is only about one method. The steps on how to factor are provided, as well as an example. And to check if students understand the lesson, they try to answer the 3 questions by showing their complete and step-by-step solution. This is accomplished without any prior lecture from the teacher. So once the teacher is done checking, he will find out what parts the students find difficult, allowing him to tailor fit his discussion. So yung nakikita niyo po sa kanan ay gawa ng isang estudyante at nasagutan niyo yung mga tanong without any prior lecture. So that this student tried his best to answer this based on how he understood the learning activity sheet. The next sample naman po is in English. So for this learning activity sheet, because there is no prior lecture, it is also very important that they are able to unlock difficult words to understand it better. This also helps students build their vocabulary. So, ang ibig sabihin po nito, di ba po pag nagdi-discuss tayo ng lesson, kailangan nating i-define yung ibang mga terms or ibang mga words para mas maintindihan ng mga bata ang ating lesson. So in this case, because there is no prior lecture, so may opportunity ang mga bata na hanapin sa dictionary ang kanyang ang mga words na mahihirap para mas maintindihan niya ang kanyang learning activity sheet or ang topic. By doing this also, it expands their vocabulary. The last LAS is a Filipino learning activity. So, ang sample po na to ay for grade 10, and in this learning activity sheet, there are several examples explaining the different topics, and to check if the students understood the lesson, there is a question that they need to answer. Now, after the students are done, they will submit this to the teacher, and the teacher will now know how much the students understood the lesson. So you have probably noticed that in the past examples, all our LAS are one-pager activities. Hindi pwedeng mahaba ang isang LAS. It is not long and it only highlights the main idea of the lesson. So probably by now you're wondering, how do students copy the LAS? So in the next slide, you will see there that there are several ways to do it. So the one you see on the upper left is a photo wherein an expert teacher or a facilitator will write the contents of the LAS on the board for students to copy. And while the teacher is copying, the students will copy the contents on their own LAS. However, if a projector is available, the contents of the LAS can be displayed using it. So sabay-sabay na kokopyahin ng mga bata ang LAS na makikita nila sa board or sa projector. And after copying, bibigyan sila ng enough time para sagutan ito. Siguro kanina nyo pa napansin na lagi naming ine-emphasize na dapat isulat ng mga bata itong mga learning activity sheets. So why do we really need to write the learning activity sheets by hand? Nung simula, sabi ng isang student ko, "Sir, baka pinapagawa nyo to sa amin para pahirapan kami." So we had to explain every year the reason why LAS must be copied by hand. Kasi hindi ito madali gawin. Just imagine if you have 7 or 8 subjects in a day and you copy one learning activity sheet, then a student will copy at least 7 or 8 learning activity sheets in a day. So, lagi naming binabalik sa kanila yung reason or ang dahilan kung bakit kailangang kopyahin ang learning activity sheets. So, writing the LAS is integral or important because it forces the student to slow down and process the lesson. If you recall, pag meron kayong kinokopya, nagiging we try to process the information because we have to read what we will have to copy. Research also has shown that a student is able to retain more information if it is copied by hand. Another reason why writing is non-negotiable is because it promotes discipline and stamina to students, especially that they have to accomplish many LAS in different subjects. So tulad po ng sabi ko kanina, araw-araw nila itong gagawin, and because there is rigor, hindi sa gusto nating pahirapan ng mga bata, pero we remind them na ang pag-aaral ay may kaakibat na kailangan nilang gawin, then it promotes discipline and stamina because marami silang kokopyahin. And the next slide will now explain to us the next program component, which is the comprehensive student portfolio. Because they copy a lot of things, students file their LAS to track their own progress all year round. It is also helpful to parents and teachers. And we'll try to discuss this briefly kung ano yung importance ng pag-file ng learning activity sheets sa portfolio. So all LAS, including small projects, quizzes, and exams, must be compiled in a portfolio. These portfolios are actually folders, just like what you see on the screen, and they are color-coded per subject. Halimbawa, pag may blue folder, ibig sabihin nito math, Pag green naman, science. Pag yellow, Filipino, for example. Try to do this because it fosters an organized mind as if they do cumulative scholarship, which is typical of scientists' work. A portfolio is also considered a proof of a student's learning because it can monitor actual student achievement. Nakikita ng parents kung ano yung ginagawa nila sa class because the learning activity sheets are supposed to be filed in the portfolio. It can also be used to review and master past lessons because they are arranged in an organized manner. It also develops a student accountability and sense of ownership because he or she is responsible for it. In the next slide, you will see two photos from CVIF where their portfolios are stored in designated shelves inside the classroom. Kung mapapansin nyo, color-coded siya because it's by subject because they keep their portfolios inside the classroom. Students also make their own table of contents to make their filing more organized and creative. So itong paggawa nila ng table of contents ay kusa itong ginagawa ng mga bata para mas maging organized at nagiging mas creative sila at motivated silang mag-aral. So the second component is the comprehensive student portfolio. Yung unang component, kailangan nilang isulat ang LAS because it allows them to process the information better. At pangalawa, kailangan nila itong i-file sa comprehensive student portfolio. Yung pangatlong program component is what we call strategic study and rest. Ang ibig sabihin nito that in CVIF-DLP, we try to give our students time to rest. And we also follow policies such as no homework and protect the weekends policy. So the scheduling of classes is strategic because all schoolwork is done inside the school. Students maximize the time they have in school so that they can rest and get the right amount of sleep, which is crucial for their brains to develop fully. No homework is also assigned to reduce the children's reliance on parents or tutors. This prevents family members from stressing over homework, which can foster healthier and stronger connections among them. There is a research that tells us that we not only need sleep after learning to consolidate what we have memorized, but we also need it before learning so that we can recharge and soak up new information the next day. So ang pahinga or ang tamang hours of sleep ay mahalaga not only para makapagpahinga tayo, kundi para maging recharge tayo the next day. At kung mapapansin niyo sa schedule, nilalagay natin yung more demanding subjects tulad ng math or science in the morning where our students are more active. In that way, they're able to be more engaged during the different activities prepared by the teacher. So yun po yung pangatlong program component. And last but not the least, the fourth program component ay yung tinatawag nating parallel class scheme. Dito sa component na to, ito siguro yung isa sa medyo mahirap intindihin sa beginning kasi teachers are able to teach students simultaneously. So ano po ibig sabihin nito? Ibig sabihin po nito na if you handle 2 to 3 classes per subject, then you can conduct it simultaneously, which will automatically lessen your contact time with your student. So if you're teaching 3 classes, then you're able to teach all 3 classes all at the same time. Now, how can this be possible if you cannot be in 3 places at one time? So the other classes are now managed by facilitators who are teachers teaching another subject. Ang isang facilitator is magsusupervise sa class to ensure that the students are doing the activities prepared by the expert teacher. This is an important part because it develops a mindset for independent learning. If you try to recall, nung nag-pandemic, parang naging parallel class lahat dahil hindi ko kasama yung mga students ko sa loob ng classroom. So parang sabay-sabay ko silang tinuturuan habang nasa loob sila ng kanilang mga bahay. And even if we are located in different places, then learning was still able to continue. By doing that it allowed them to become independent learners. Students can explore on their own and foster strong in-school collaboration since the expert teacher does not dominate in the classroom. So from being the sage on the stage, the teacher now becomes the guide on the side. This also shifts the role of teachers by allocating more time to prepare the learning activity sheet. So because there will be lesser time for the student, for the teacher rather to be in the classroom. So yung ibang oras niya, igugulgulin niya sa paghanda ng mga LAS, pag-diagnose at pag-evaluate sa mga sagot ng mga bata sa LAS, at pag-recognize kung sino sa mga students natin ang struggling para matulungan natin sila. So because everything is individualized, alam ni teacher kung sino sa mga students niya ang kailangan na extra help. And because of this, helping them becomes more manageable. In the next slide, we see that the overall 4 components, the activity-based multi-domain learning, the comprehensive student portfolio, the strategic study and rest, and the parallel class scheme, they are considered the key pillars or the non-negotiables of CVIF-DLP to ensure that the program is implemented effectively. Moreover, these 4 components are able to address the learner disposition because there are habits that they acquire while they are learning in this kind of setup. So it addresses that may mga habits na nakukuha ang mga bata para ma-develop ang pagiging independent learners nila. Pangalawa, it addresses large classes. In the Philippine setting, a lot of our classes are very large, 40 students, 50 or even 60 students. At dahil napakaraming mga students, it's also very challenging for the teacher to monitor how everyone is doing. Because of that, we try to individualize activities in CVIF-DLP through the learning activity sheet. The program also addresses the lack of qualified teachers because of the parallel class scheme. So kahit kukonti ang expert sa math because kaya nating magturo ng 2 to 3 classes at the same time, then it becomes possible. So overall, our implementation of the CVIF-DLP consisted of a lot of unlearning, learning and relearning. As a sound teaching pedagogy, CVIF-DLP showed us an unconventional way of teaching and learning. Ito yung sinasabi dati ni Mama Marivic na if you want to move fast, then you have to slow down. If you want to learn more, then you have to teach less. More than the content, values are also concretized among teachers and students in CVIF-DLP. Values like self-discipline, competence, honesty, integrity. Natututuhan nila ito sa program. In a survey we conducted during our full run of online distance learning, one of the factors why our students were able to manage satisfactorily is because of the habits they formed through the program. Getting used to independent learning contributed to an increase in their confidence and growth mindset. Masasabi nila sa sarili nila, uy, kaya ko palang gawin ito. Traits necessary to develop lifelong learning. The students also have a positive perception on their ability to learn independently. Success indicators showing how the program has improved the performance of our students in different standardized tests are also evident. Our students' general scholastic aptitude in NCAE, including their math and science scores, show that more than 70% of our students belong to the 98 to 99 plus percentile rank, which means that they belong to the top 2% of everyone who took the exam. Similarly, their CEM diagnostic test scores, this is a third-party office we tap in order to conduct tests to our students. Their scores in English, math, and science show that more than half have obtained a rating of excellence or approaching excellence. The number of students passing university entrance exams have also increased through the years. Now, we move on to the next part of our discussion, and we'll now focus on the key ingredient, and that is the learning activity sheet. If you recall what Sir Chris said, malaki ang role ng learning activity sheet para ma-enhance ang learning ng mga bata, especially in less ideal situations. Tulad ng pandemic na hindi natin pwedeng kasama ang mga bata sa classroom, tulad na lang pag may bagyo wherein we cannot use the schools first, the classrooms first. So what are we supposed to do? So our discussion will now focus on the LAS. And when we say key ingredient, it means that it plays an important role so that students can continue even with minimal supervision or intervention. The LAS is the main instructional tool in CVIF-DLP, which is carefully prepared by the teacher. This is similar to a lesson plan, but the main audience of an LAS is the student. It is to be copied by hand by the students and given to them one activity at a time because learning in small chunks enhances absorption and retention. So just imagine, instead of giving all the topics at once, hinahati-hati natin to para mas ma-absorb or ma-enhance ng mga bata yung learning. In situations where there are no textbooks or internet connectivity is limited or none, the LAS also becomes a great substitute for a learning material. Kumbaga, kung walang gamit, kung walang connectivity, kung meron tayong LAS, then learning can still continue. The LAS must also be self-explanatory as it is to be accomplished without any prior lecture or teacher intervention. Again, this develops our students' critical thinking and independent learning skills. In this slide, you will see that most LAS have three distinct parts. Ito yung concept digest, and then examples or illustration, followed by questions, problems, and exercises. The concept digest, which is the first part of the LAS, covers the basic idea to be learned about the topic. This includes the definition of the term being discussed or a short explanation about the topic. So, kumbaga sa discussion natin, dito natin binibigay kung ano ang ibig sabihin nito at kung bakit natin ito pinag-aaralan. It is usually followed by an example or an illustration which helps students understand the concept digest better. Just like when we're teaching, we try to give examples or try to provide illustrations para mas ma-deepen ang understanding ng mga bata regarding this topic. So we include that in the LAS when it is necessary. And in the order for us to check for understanding, students must answer a few exercise questions on their own. Ito yung questions na nakikita at the last part of the LAS. So this is what the teacher will check to diagnose how much the students know about the lesson already. Kasi pag isasubmit niya ng mga bata, makikita mo agad kung ilan ang nakakuha ng tama at kung ilan ang merong misconception about the topic. The next few slides will show us different types of LAS in CVIF-DLP. Isa sa mga laging natatanong sa akin is ano ba ang itsura ng LAS? So hopefully I think we have here 6 samples will give you a better idea that it is actually a flexible tool. Hindi ibig sabihin na magkokopya lang ang bata lagi. So in this slide, you will see an example LAS in the form of a concept notes or a laboratory report. So what you see on the left is an example of a grade 7 math concept note. I think the topic for this is sets kasi may nakita tayong parang Venn diagram dyan. So again, it's only one page and it only talks about one concept. So most concept notes are longer. It actually fills the entire one page because meron siyang digest, example, and questions. Now, on the other hand, what you see on the right is a sample science laboratory report. So, sa DLP, kahit na may challenge tayo sa science equipment, we try to make use of materials that are readily available in school or in our community. So, kokopyahin ng mga bata ang mga materials, ang procedures, at gagawin nila ito on their own. And after doing the experiment, meron silang mga tanong na sasagutan. This is also an example of a learning activity sheet in the form of a laboratory report na nakikita natin usually sa mga libro. The next slide will show us 2 examples of skills and exercise. O kung sa atin pa parang seat work or formative activity. So on the left, you notice mas kukonti ang mga words kasi may mga boxes wherein doon ilalagay ng mga bata ang kanyang sagot. And then on the right is you will see another seat work or a formative drill that will require students to answer 10 questions for test A and answer 3 questions for test B. So for this slide, you will see 2 examples of seat works in the form of learning activity sheet. So medyo hindi siya foreign sa atin kasi binibigay naman natin ito sa ating mga students kahit dati. Sa next slide, makikita din natin na meron ding mga opportunities ang mga bata na mag-draw or merong mga art activity. So sa next slide, you will see an LAS wherein almost blanco siya. Kasi ang task ng activity na to ay ang bata makakreate ng illustration based on their understanding of a certain topic. So pwedeng ganito kaikli ang isang learning activity sheet. At gagamitin ito ng bata, bibigyan natin sila ng time na gawin itong illustration inside the classroom. And what you see on the right is another math activity sheet. And you will see here many illustrations of the different types of angles. Because we talk about angle measures, then we feel that it's important that our students also draw these para mas ma-imagine nila kung anong itsura ng mga angles na to. Excuse me. So these are just the 6 samples of learning activity sheets that we can give to our students. Hopefully, you now have a better appreciation of what it is that they can come in different forms. Some are longer, some are shorter, and they just don't copy. Sometimes they draw. Sometimes they're asked to answer something. Sometimes they're asked to make a paragraph. Depende sa subject at depende kung ano ang hinihingi ng learning activity. So in our next slide, makikita natin ang isang popular na illustration pag nagdi-discuss kami ng dynamic learning program or ng LAS. Since all the LAS are to be accomplished without prior lecture, meaning walang discussion, teachers must ensure that students that can complete them on their own. Activities must be divided then, or they must be chunked properly so that students are able to reach the required competency. Now, if you look at the analogy in the photo, pag merong isang high step, ito yung kailangan nating i-avoid because when there's a high step, there is a big possibility the students cannot move to the next step. At pag hindi siya makamove sa next step, hindi niya maabot yung required competencies. So this means that a learning activity sheet should not be too complex and made as simple as possible so that students can accomplish them independently. Take note that in order for students to do this, what we try to do is achieve something like this in this illustration. We need to chunk a complex task into more simple activities so that students are able to reach the required competency even with minimal intervention. If a learning activity sheet is designed properly, very little or no teacher intervention is needed and students can continue learning. So in this illustration, this tells us na let's say during the pandemic when there's very little intervention from us because of a lot of challenges and issues, walang internet, hindi makakapunta ang mga bata sa school, as long as we provide them with learning activity sheets, then we're assured that they are still learning because we designed these activities to be more simple para mas madali nilang ma-reach yung next step. So even though they're doing more activities because they're simple, students are able to accomplish them even with very little teacher intervention. In the next slide are just some guidelines on how to make an ideal learning activity sheet. So we need to take note of these following guidelines. just by looking at it, we can see that it's only one page and it should only cover one major concept. So if there are a lot of concepts you want to address in this certain topic, then it is advisable that you chunk it into several learning activity sheet. Ang naiisip ko na example ngayon is, let's say, pag nagdi-discuss tayo ng, let's say, operation of integers sa grade 7 students or even sa grade 6 students, hindi naman natin sabay-sabay dinidiscuss ang addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So pwede natin ito gawin 1 or 2 learning activity sheets at a time to ensure that our students understand this concept first before moving to the next operation. To fit one page, usually this is what we do. We use a long bond paper, 8.5 by 13. Our font size, sometimes, most of the time, we use Times New Roman or Arial, and the font size is size 14, and the space is 1.5 or 2. And you have to take note that the questions and the exercises we provide at the end should address the learning targets and progress from easy to medium to difficult. So dapat related ito sa objective natin, which I think all teachers are very familiar already. At dapat yung kanyang degree of difficulty nagsisimula sa madali bago doon sa mas challenging to engage all the learners in the classroom. Our experience with CVIF-DLP shows that only 15 to 30% of discussion time is needed by students because many concepts and principles, even the difficult ones, can be learned independently. So in the next slide, this is a very powerful statement made by, I think, Sir Marivic, wherein our experience is the same in the sense that, can we proceed to the next slide po? Okay. Next slide po. Yes, thank you. Wherein you only need about 15 or 20 to 30% of class time to discuss concepts and principle, very far from the usual conventional way of teaching, wherein it's very teacher-centered, and for the full 100%, it's only the teacher that is talking. We have proven that through the use of well-designed learning activity sheets, students are able to discuss, to learn independently. And what is key here is to ensure that what we design are well-crafted learning activity sheets. And this is made possible by allowing students to discover the lesson on their own through the learning activity sheet. I'm almost on the latter part of my discussion, and in my last few slides, we will narrate on how we can use the LAS in crisis situations when students cannot be physically present in school. Tulad nung sinabi ko, nung pandemic. So this was what we did during the pandemic to cater to students of full, limited, or no access to the internet. A more comprehensive discussion will be given or will be shared to us by another speaker later. So this part of the discussion just highlights that even in different scenarios, whether there is internet or not, whether you are allowed to go to school or not, then we can use the learning activity sheet to ensure that learning happens in different situations. So the first step is when the teacher prepares the learning activity sheet. So as teacher, you decide what activity sheet is needed by the student so that the student will reach the required competency. At syempre, tinitingnan natin yan sa curriculum guide. Kung ito yung required competency, ang tanong natin sa sarili natin as teachers is, ano ba yung mga learning activity sheets na kailangan nating i-design para maabot ng bata ang competency na ito. So that's the first step. Teacher prepares the learning activity sheet. The next slide now shows that this learning activity sheet where the students, where the teacher design will be distributed to the students. So there are many ways on how to distribute it. So number one, if access to internet or device is possible, then the teacher can email it to the student. So there are many ways. Teacher can email. May ibang schools, alam ko ang ginagawa nila, pinopost nila or pino-forward nila or ina-upload nila ang picture ng learning activity sheet sa Messenger or minsan kina-copy-paste nila yung text sa Messenger kasi halos lahat ng parents or students may Messenger account already. In other schools, just like ours, we make use of a learning management system like Google Classroom kung saan doon namin pinapasok ang learning activity sheet at pagdating at dahil ang bata ay nasa bahay, pwede niyang i-access ito at makikita niya kung ano yung kanyang kokopyahin. So kahit nasa bahay sila, they still copy. However, if this is not possible, in other schools, they pick up their LES from designated pick-up centers. So mamaya, our resource speaker from CVIF will tell more about this because this was something that they did during the pandemic. Now, the next step is dahil na-access na ng bata yung LES, whether kinuha ito ng parent niya sa pick-up center or sinend ng teacher niya online, the student will now copy the learning activity sheet. So, hindi pwedeng babasahin lang niya at sasagutan lang niya yung mga tanong sa end. Kailangan niya itong i-copy. Dahil dahil tulad ng sinabi ko kanina at sabi ng mga speakers, sabi rin ni Sir Chris na ang writing plays a very important role for students to retain the information given to them. So saan nila ito isusulat? In the next slide, you will see a blank learning activity sheet template. So parang ganitong itsura ng blank LAS. Bibigyan natin ang mga bata para dito nila isusulat yung learning activity sheet. May mga times nga during pandemic na naubusan ang mga bata ng learning activity sheet. So they had to use a bond paper, yung blankong bond paper, even yellow paper. Ang importante, meron silang papel kung saan nila isusulat yung lesson o yung contents ng LAS. Again, everything must be written starting from the name, ano yung title ng LAS, yung target. Kaya kung mapansin nyo, parang blanco siya. And only the top part is printed because this is where students will write the learning activity, the contents of the learning activity sheet. Now, in the next slide, you will see here naman that the students will now compile the learning activity sheets in a folder by subject. Dahil napakarami nilang kopya, isa sa math, isa sa science, sa English, sa Filipino, and so on, then kailangan meron itong folder kung saan doon nila ilalagay ito. Again, dahil ito sa ating program component which we call the Comprehensive Student Portfolio. At pag tapos na ang batang magsulat at sumagot, then that's when the teacher will intervene. So in the next slide, the teacher will just use 20 to 30% of class time for intervention or for discussion. And this can happen in many ways. Pwedeng sa messenger, pwedeng sa radio, sa TV, or sa online. So, ang questions dati sa amin is paano kung hindi posible ang teacher intervention? Ang sagot namin, it's still okay because the LAS is designed for students to learn something even with very minimal teacher intervention. So pwedeng, kung hindi posible ang mga methods na to, pwedeng mag-feedback ang teacher habang nag-check siya ng LAS para pagbalik sa bata ng LAS, makikita ng bata kung bakit siya mali or kung paano niya dapat sinolve to para mas maging tama ang kanyang answer, for example. Now, the next slide will now proceed to the collection. Dahil tapos ng intervention, so the teachers need to get the LAS para makita niya ang mga sagot ng kanyang mga students. So again, there are two ways. Kung may internet or may connectivity, then pwede nila itong isend via messenger or via email or via a learning management system like Google Classroom. However, kung hindi to posible, pwedeng ibalik ng parent sa pick-up center ang mga accomplished LAS para mabigay ito sa teacher, and teacher can give feedback to the students at makukuha ito ng students the next time the parents will pick up new learning activity sheet. And lastly, after collecting, that's when the teacher will assess the answers of the student via the learning activity sheet that they submitted, whether it's online or printed. Now, this is very important, and I want to emphasize this, that bakit kailangan may assessment? Kasi dito malalaman ng teacher kung paano sinagutan ng bata ang kanyang learning activity sheet. So as a teacher, malalaman ko na kung saan hirap ang mga bata, ano yung mga misconceptions nila, and so on. That's why we remind teachers that you are the one who needs to check the learning activity sheet, because you need to gather this data so that you will know how to customize or tailor fit your discussion. Now, proceeding to my last slide, our desire for our students to become independent learners made us believe in CVIF-DLP as a teaching pedagogy, even if it meant resistance from different stakeholders at the onset. Nung nagsimula kami 19 years ago, there were a lot of resistance from parents, from teachers, and from students. But what we did was we tried to explain to them why we need to do this so that students can learn more effectively. At the end of the day, the reason why we're doing this is for the benefit of the students. We believe that the habits that our students have formed and the mindset that they are capable of learning independently will greatly help them in the future. The recent events in education forced us to change the way we view teaching and learning. Our hope is that more schools will see CVIF-DLP as a viable alternative. And that's why we're very thankful and grateful that you're here to join us to see how this can help you in different crisis situations. And we hope that the benefits and the fulfillment we are getting and will be getting will far outweigh the hardships and challenges we are taking, and we will be taking, all because of our mission to develop learners imbued with high Christian ideals. I hope I was able to share to you our story in a way that you will see how the 4 program components of CVIF-DLP will help into allowing our students to learn even in less ideal situations. Maraming salamat po sa pakikinig. Thank you very much, Sir Desi from Davao Christian High School. Okay, ganito po. Bago tayo mag-proceed sa ating Q&A, medyo hinga muna si Sir Desi. Babatiin ko lang po yung mga kasama natin sa Facebook, sa YouTube, and also dito po sa ating Zoom. First batch po, Caragasan National High School, SDO Ifugao, Batong Buhay National High School, Pasil Kalinga, and then SDO Apayao, Banuang Gurang National High School, SDO Sorsogon, Santo Tomas National High School, SDO Isabela, May Suwa National High School, Pulangi North, NCSAT, SDO Naga City, San Pedro National High School, SDO Binyan City, Laguna, St. Francis National High School, SDO Binyan, Sabang National High School, SDO Camarines Sur, San Pedro National High School, SDO Bulacan, Dolores National High School, SDO San Pablo City. Yan po ang ating first batch ng mga babatiin. Galing, nakakalat pala talaga tayo dito po sa northern part nitong Pilipinas hanggang bandang gitna. Sir Desi, maganda yung presentation mo, no? Ang napulot ko doon, dalawang bagay. Number 1, ito pong learning activity sheets or LAS ng CVIF-DLP makakatulong sa atin as we go about our recovery phase dito sa mga nasalanta, unfortunately. Tapos, dito po sa ating makeup classes. At pangalawa, yung sabi ni Sir Desi, no, because we give them a tool, a learning activity sheet na napakaganda ng pagkakagawa, magkakaroon tayo ng data, magkakaroon tayo ng information kung saan pwede nating i-assess ngayon bilang mga teachers, i-direct yung flow ng knowledge para sa proper intervention. Ang good news po niyan, Tama ba, Sir Desi? Ito pong LAS na ito ay gawa na. Buo
Yes
na,
po.
ibibigay na lang ng
Mhm.
DepEd. Tama po ba?
That's right po.
Okay, so ang mga pinanggalingan po nito ay yung ating mga kaibigan from SDO ng Sarangani, tapos of course yung CVIF, and then guided by our ambassadors. So, Desi, sa dinami-dami ng napag-usapan natin kanina, isa siguro sa mga magsistick sa mga nakinig sa atin is one page. Ang
Mhm.
LAS ay one page per day per subject. Tama po ba? Paki-reiterate nga po 'yon. Bakit one page
Yes
lang?
po. We try to stick to the one page kasi po we don't want to overload our students with information. Dahil kung meron
Aha.
tayong constraint na one page, then mas napipigilan natin ating sarili to give supplementary information but rather stick to the main idea to be learned. Hindi po ibig sabihin nito na mas kokonti ang pwedeng matutuhan ng mga bata because if a topic is very complex, you can divide it into several learning activity sheet. So for example po, in high school laging nadidiscuss po ang different grammar rules and minsan
Okay.
po umaabot yan ng 20 rules. Kung ilalagay mo yan sa isang learning activity sheet, sobrang overwhelming nito para sa student. So what we try to do is we try to chunk it para, let's say, pwedeng 3 rules muna at a time para hindi mo overwhelm ang bata. So that's one. That's why we try to focus on the one pager. Because if you exceed, that can be a signal already that the concept is complicated. And we take
Okay.
note that when we design an LAS, yung goal ho talaga natin, Sir Dave, is zero or minimal teacher intervention na kahit na, let's say, biglang walang pasok dahil bagyo, learning can continue at home kung saan wala si teacher. And of course, we can't expect parents to help because they also work. And minsan, hirap din yung parents sa mga topics na meron ang
Okay.
mga bata. So gusto natin na ma-equip ang mga bata, maging capable sila of learning on their own even in situations when they cannot be in the classroom.
So saktong-sakto nga, Sir Desi, no? Kasi kung onti lang, I mean the essentials lang ang laman ng isang LAS, kung ipapagamit mo ito sa mga bata at mayroong disaster, walang teacher intervention na masyado, okay lang. Hindi gaano mahihirapan yung bata.
Yes
No? Kasi
po.
kung magbabasa man siya, magsusulat man siya, kokopyahin niya, kakaunti lang po ang kanyang i-accomplish. Tama po?
Yes po. Instead na nasa bahay siya, wala siyang ginagawa, learning can still continue. Siguro may mga parts na mahirapan siya. Pagbalik niya ng school, pwede niyang itanong to sa teacher. But at least learning still continued.
Guilty ako dito eh. Nasanay kasi ata tayo ng mga bata na spoon feeding, no?
Yes
I mean,
po. So,
literal na spoon feeding, kahit big boy ka na, susubuan ka pa din kumain ng ganyan. So I think ganun din sa learning. Hanggat kaya na ibigay ni teacher, kasi love na love niya yung mga estudyante niya, no?
Yes
Sige
po.
na, go. Aral ka. Ikaw ba, Sir Desi, ganun ka? Bago ka naging DLP
Yes po.
advocate?
Para lang po maintindihan ng ating mga co-teachers na kasama na nanonood sa atin, I teach physics and math. And ito po
Okay.
yung dalawang subject na I think marami sa atin ayaw natin dito dahil mahirap siya. So sa simula, kahit ako, naging doubtful ako, paano ko ituturo ang physics na hindi ako nagdi-discuss? Kasi dati yung feeling ko is parang ako dapat yung magbigay ng information sa mga bata. But when I studied the program, I realized that when you design or craft a very good learning activity sheet, makakaya ng mga bata. It was very humbling at the beginning, and it was also very empowering to know that you are equipping your students to become independent learners. Kasi ito ang isang skill na pwede nilang dalhin when they go to college, when they apply for work. And I think this is more important at yung sinasabi nating lifelong learning. So instead of me giving or feeding them all the information, we are equipping our students to become independent learners. So it took some time. Pero sabi nga nila, you trust the process. At
Yeah, very
ngayon,
good.
alam ko na
Lalo na nung pandemic, Sir Dave, na ilang taon na hindi ko nakasama yung mga bata. Pero nung pagbalik namin, nung tinanong ko sila, may alam naman sila about the subject. So that
very
means
good.
meron silang natutuhan sa bahay. It was less ideal, but life had to move forward during that time, right?
Yeah. Pero teka lang, baka sabi nila, teka lang, tama ba yung nadinig namin? Isang page na nga lang siya, wala pang lecture sa umpisa.
Yes po.
Tama, Sir Desi?
Yes, no prior lecture po. So the teacher
Okay.
will only lecture after the students accomplish. Because ito po yung sinasabi natin, I think our teachers here are familiar with the discovery approach. You give time for students to discover the lesson first. Para kasi mas meaningful yun sa kanila. So hindi kaya sa learning activity sheet pinapakopya sila para may time sila to process, para mas ma-appreciate nila yung topic or yung lesson, for example.
Okay. Sa mga Zoom attendees po natin, pwede kayong mag-chat ha. Tapos nasa Facebook and YouTube Live, pwede kayong mag-comment para we can also read it and address your concerns. Sir Desi, di ba mahirap yun? Kasi syempre, as much as possible, kung merong online, papadala ko na lang online tulad ng ginawa ninyo, no? Pero ito ba yung makikipag-coordinate ka pa sa barangay? Meron ka pang pick-up points? Palagay mo, doable ba yun? Doable yun kasi sinasabi ko na po. Pero di ba, paano siya naging doable?
I think later our audience will appreciate more the discussion of Ma'am Julie Pearl because ito talaga ginawa nila. And I think as teachers, and I'm sure our teachers will understand when I say this is the sacrifice we make for our students to continue learning. Nakakalungkot na we cannot go to schools because may tubig pa or nabasa lahat ng gamit natin. But we know that after the pandemic, nagkaroon ng learning loss, and this is a fact, no? And these calamities will continue to be there year in and year out. So that's why I always say that maybe CVIF-DLP is a game changer na pwedeng ito yung gamitin natin para matuloy ang pagkatuto ng mga bata in crisis or less ideal situations.
Yeah.
So,
Ito off-script, ito personal ko pong opinion. I think it's about time that we embrace this kind of innovation. Kasi ilang taon na nga to, 22 years ba sabi ni Sir Chris, ano?
Yes po.
Pero for hundreds of years, marami tayong typhoon. Sabi nga ni Sir Chris, nasa Pacific Ring of Fire tayo. So, 'di ba parang laging tumutulo ang ating bubong. Anong gagawin natin?
Because of
Tayo ba'y
climate
lagi
change.
na lang?
Oo.
Yeah,
Yes,
oo. So
oo.
lagi na lang ba tayo magdadala ng anyway. So ito na. Ito na po ang
Yes po.
magandang balita, good news from the Department of Education because the leadership, Secretary Angara, si Asek Garma, si Director Michael nandito po full force ika nga ang pagsubok nitong CVIF-DLP para sa mga kabataan natin. So Desi, di ba magastos yun? Kasi meron kang ilang papel ba yung ipiprint ng eskwelahan? Tapos yung gagamitin ng mga bata, anong masasabi niyo po doon?
Actually, ang CVIF-DLP is a low budget program because we only use the blank learning activity sheet. In a conventional method, parents need to buy several notebooks. I think mas mahal ang notebooks.
Oo nga naman.
Dahil ngayon po hindi na kami gumagamit ng notebooks.
At saka may books pa no?
Yes po, may books pa. Kami po kahit private school po kami, let's say sa junior high school, we don't require students to bring textbooks. Isa lang po yung textbook na nire-require namin sa kanila.
Good.
Unlike in the past few years before we implemented, it was 5 or more textbooks. Kasi nga meron na pong learning activity sheets.
Actually, palagay ko sa mga eskwelahan na kaya naman na may textbook, sige, why not,
Yes,
diba?
opo,
Pero,
yes.
kumbaga, wala nang excuse. Kung
That's
wala kang
right.
resources, alam mo yun, kulang sa kung ano-ano mang mga bagay o tauhan, kaya posible po may pag-asa na meron tayong quality
sa
education.
manpower, kulang sa connectivity, kulang sa textbooks. Pag may LAS ka, pwede pa ring may learning.
Oo, dinig ko nga pati ibang countries interesado sa DLP. So very good. Ibig sabihin, isa na tayo sa mga leaders pagdating sa education. Sige, Sir Desi. I think wala na pong mga tanong pa, no? From our friends tuned in on Facebook and YouTube dito sa ating Zoom. Sir Desi, meron ka bang final message of encouragement para naman ganahan po itong mag-implement ng DLP?
Again po, gusto ko magpasalamat ulit for this opportunity, and I hope that to our teachers who are watching, we can look at it really as a viable alternative. Ito po ay isang teaching pedagogy na dinesign ng mga Filipino educators for our Filipino students. Sa pag-design po nila ito, naisip po nila yung mga challenges na meron tayo sa Philippine educational system. Kulang ang mga guro, kulang ang mga classroom, kulang ang textbook, even ang pag-uugali ng isang Filipino learner, na-incorporate nila ito sa pag-design. So I hope we give it a chance, and we hope that the CVIF-DLP family will grow with DepEd's support po. God bless po, and we hope that we continue learning more things about the program for the rest of this learning session this afternoon.
Teka, Sir Desi, medyo may naalala pala ako. Kasi di ba, pag in-implement mo to, you as a leader ng eskwelahan, ano, of course, nakikita mo yung magandang intellectual development, pagkadagdag ng knowledge. Yung character ba nila nagbago? Mas naging resilient ba sila? Mas naging disiplinado ba yung mga bata natin from Davao Christian?
Definitely po. At the beginning, there were complaints, but again, because we explained to them the reason, they were still complaints, but they were doing it. A short kwento lang po. Even when they go to college, dahil wala ng learning activity sheet or portfolio, minsan gumagawa sila ng own LAS nila or portfolio kasi alam nila that this is an effective way of learning. And this is something that we did not intend to happen. It was an unintended consequence. But our students doing this, even after they move out of Davao Christian, says that they are capable now of learning independently, trying to make their own concept notes, compiling them in an in a portfolio. So ito yung mga bagay na nakakatuwa na nagagawa nila ito even after they graduate from the school.
Kasi kung bibilangin mo, no, kung merong 200 school days, halimbawa 200 times 8 subjects po ba yun? So, ilan yun, Sir Desi? 200 times 8. So,
naalala ko, naalala ko yung sabi ni Ma'am Marivic na in one school year, may possibility that a student using the CVIF-DLP approach will answer 5,000 questions in one school year.
There you go.
That's a lot of questions that they answer kasi araw-araw nila itong ginagawa. Pero hindi ito one time, big time.
Correct.
Kasi isa or dalawang questions lang per learning activity sheet. So just imagine the academic endurance and the discipline these students will have that they can bring with them in college or even when they work already.
Ano daw yan motivation and consistency. Motivation minsan big time. Paano pag di ka na motivated? Pero pag consistent ka, disciplined ka, kahit little steps lang, as long as gumagalaw, paigi yan pag napuno po sa dulo. Ito yung mga estudyante. Paano po ang mga teachers, Sir Desi, bilang leader ng isang eskwelahan, paano mo sila ini-encourage na, sige lang, madami kang check ha, madami kang gagawin. Paano po?
I think ang biggest fulfillment naming ng mga teachers na nagtuturo sa program na to is knowing that the learning activity sheets that we design, even if there's very little intervention, ay nakatulong sa mga bata. So, ibig sabihin nga, it's more on empowering our students. At the same time, dahil po lahat ng activities are individualized, mas alam ko kung sino sa mga students ko ang dapat kong tutukan. And I think as teacher, yun po yung mas importanteng role natin to diagnose our students' difficulty so that we know how to help them. And it's only possible when you have data. And that data will come from the learning activity sheet. So different kind of fulfillment or satisfaction, but I didn't feel, in all honesty, that it diminished my role as a teacher. I think it actually made it more important and motivated me to continue to embrace the mission of teaching.
So pati ang mga parents, kakampi nyo na ngayon?
Yes po, alam
lahat
po
ba?
nila
Lahat?
na meron pong nagtatanong pa rin bakit hindi na lang daw mag-iPad or bakit hindi na lang i-type sa laptop. But pag po na-explain namin, mas naintindihan din ho nila kasi nababalikan din nila yung ginagawa nila dati. Oo nga, pag sinusulat, mas naaalala. So, and at least, alam nila na pag nasa bahay, dahil walang assignment, their children can do other things. Extracurricular, tutulong sa bahay, magpapahinga, parang do activities as a family, for example, to strengthen their bond kasi lahat ng schoolwork sa loob ng klase ginagawa.
Ayun, okay. Pakawalan natin, Sir Desi. Mamaya uli, ha?
See you
Salamat
later
po.
po.
Isa sa mga magigiting naming ambassadors ng CVIF Dynamic Learning Program. At this point, we will jump to our second discussion. Let's further learn how we can operationalize the rollout of Dynamic Learning Program in our schools. Originating from the initial implementation site of the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, let us examine how the Central Visayan Institute Foundation successfully transitioned to home-based distant learning utilizing learning activity sheets during the pandemic. Ito po yung OG, original eskwelahan, CVIF, Central Visayan Institute Foundation. This approach mirrors the educational strategies employed in response to various natural disasters, even yung human-induced, including andun yung typhoons, heat waves, earthquakes, at saka mga local conflicts. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Ms. Julie Pearl Baha, Clan, Principal of the Junior High School ng Central Visayan Institute Foundation. Julie.
Thank you po, Sir David. So before po ako mag-present sa aking presentation, nais ko pong magpasalamat sa Department of Education, to PLDT Smart Foundation, to Sir Chris. Thank you for organizing this orientation on Dynamics Learning Program. And also, of course, thank you to Director Mike and to all our DLP ambassadors for sharing your knowledge and expertise. So this afternoon, I will be sharing the steps in implementing the CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets. These steps include the preparation, distribution, and collection of the learning activity sheets. Itong isi-share ko ay para para makukuha nyo ng idea what CVIF did during the pandemic and para mas hindi kayo mahirapan in adapting the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program. Because we all know that the CVIF-DLP is really really designed to address class disruptions brought by natural disasters, and also CVIF Dynamic Learning Program is a teaching method focused on developing students to become independent strategic learners. So during the pandemic, we had two schedules for the distribution and collection of the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program activity sheets. Friday for the junior high school students and Monday for the senior high school department from 8 in the morning to 11:30. Before classes started, or prior to disseminating the schedule, CVIF conducted a survey, and based on the survey, only 6% of the students opted to online instructional mode. Therefore, the school continued to print, distribute, and collect the learning activity sheets at the designated drop-off stations of the different barangays in Habna and to other neighboring towns in Habna, just like the towns of Garcia, Duero, Guindulman, and among others. Because, we have also a lot of students coming from other towns, not just in Habna. So as a summary, we have 19 drop-off stations, which include barangay halls, chapels, LGU covered court, and some selected elementary schools. Now, I would like also to mention that on September 21, 2020, the Department of Education announced its endorsement of the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program as independent learning strategy as a flexible learning option in time for education's new normal brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. So to start with, these are the steps in the preparation of the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program learning activity sheets. The learning activity sheets is the main instructional tool of the CVIF-DLP. So the LAS are designed for students to digest and answer on their own without prior lecture from the teachers. A key component of the CVIF-DLP is its self-directed learning activity sheets, which are aligned with learners' learning competencies. The learning competencies are just translated and split into bite-sized learning activities that learners can easily digest and process. This way, much fewer students need remediation. Kindly share the slides po for the steps. Also, in preparing the CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets, the expert teachers or the subject teacher should always check if an LAS is missing in the curriculum guide. Now, if an old LAS is not suitable for the pandemic conditions or the recent situation, then the teachers compose a new one and revise the LAS based on the content, presentation, or formatting. So during the pandemic, we strongly discourage an LAS that requires regular grouping of students, and instead we think of projects or strategies that are individualized, and also we avoid an LAS that requiring students to use dictionaries or references or to search on the internet to answer the question, since this is also unfair to many students, who do not have dictionaries at home, or to those students without phone signal or internet connectivity. But instead, the LAS was modified with a multiple choice type or true or false for vocabulary exercises, in which students can choose the meaning from the several terms. The second step is the teacher prints the prepared CVIF-DLP learning activity sheets. Now, for those LAS in which there are text, numbers, symbols, or figures in light-colored font, we darken them, as this will not show up clearly in the result, and this will look faded and hard to see when reproduced in black and white using the Risu machine. So what we did, we used dark colors and thick lines to give strong contrast to the background. Third, the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program activity sheets are photocopied or reproduced according to the number of students per class. So we had to risograph each learning activity sheet, and LAS were reduced to 1/2 size or 1/2, such that 2 LAS are side by side on one printed page. This is so para na din maka-save tayo ng paper dito. Fourth step, the teacher puts the reproduced CVIF Dynamic Learning Program learning activity sheets in a clear envelope for each student. Dapat sinisiguro talaga dito sa mga teachers na each students na ang mga LAS talaga for that week have been printed and included in the weekly distribution. Of course, the collation was then supervised by the principals. Now, for each plastic envelope was labeled with student's name and section for efficient distribution at the designated drop-off stations. Fifth, the teacher puts the envelopes in bins that corresponds to pick-up points or drop-off stations. The plastic envelopes here that contain with the learning activity sheets with more than 32 LAS per week, because we have 8 subjects times 4 LAS per subjects. And then, these plastic envelopes were placed in a big plastic boxes that were brought to drop-off stations for distribution. Now, let's proceed to the distribution of the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program activity sheets. First, the parents or guardians proceed to their designated pick-up point area, following the schedule provided for submission and pick-up of CVIF Dynamic Learning Program learning activity sheets. So as I mentioned earlier, we had two schedules for the two departments, every Monday and Friday respectively, with 19 drop-off stations in the 4 towns including Hagna. Second step, step 2 please. Step 2. Yan. Parents or guardians drop the accomplished CVIF Dynamic Learning Program activity sheets in the designated box per grade level and sign on the submission form. Dito dapat sinisiguro din ng teacher na dapat sinicheck niya. Siya ang nag-monitor that each student received and returned the accomplished LAS on time and noted the cases why an LAS has not been returned. Third step, parents or guardians retrieve a new batch of CVIF Dynamic Learning Program learning activity sheets good for 1 week and sign on the acknowledgement form. The acknowledgement form here serves as the attendance record for each class and subject area. Fourth, the teacher sorts the submitted CVIF Dynamic Learning Program learning activity sheets by grade level and then by subject for checking. In the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, students are required to write everything. This is part of the training and habit formation. Writing aids in better retention. So the students work on the activities 80% of the time, while the teacher intervention takes up only 20% of the class period. In the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, classes are not teacher-dominated, so there is an enhanced peer discussion and collaborative learning is strong. Now, let's watch a video of the actual implementation of the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program in the new normal.
Nagkamput.
Ayun, salamat po, Ma'am Julie. Medyo hinga ka muna ng onti, babatiin ko uli yung mga kasamahan natin, batch 2. Dito po sa Facebook, sa YouTube, at saka sa Zoom. They are from Itawes National High School, SDO Cagayan, Santo Angel National High School, SDO San Pablo City, San Pedro National High School, SDO Bulacan, Sabang National High School, Camsur Division, San Pedro National High School, Kinaputan National High School, Tagkawayan, Quezon, WC, SAT, SDO Cagayan, Antagan Primary School, SDO Isabela, Panike National High School, Payak High School, Bato Camsur, Sabang National High School, Apalit High School, Santo Angel National High School, San Roque National High School, SDO Antipolo City, Batong Buhay National High School, Pasil, and Kalinga. Again, pwede po kayong sumali sa ating discussion, ano? Pwede kayong mag-chat dito po sa ating Zoom, or pwede naman mag-comment ng inyong questions and clarifications or other concerns diyan po sa Facebook Live, tsaka sa YouTube Live na pinapakita ng DepEd Philippines at sinishare ng PLDT and Smart Communities. Ma'am Julie, meron pong tanong dito yung, I think, earlier or nung kahapon, ano, paano daw po naa-address nung learning activity sheets itong mga non-readers o yung mga challenged learners natin, struggling halimbawa? Paano kung hindi pa kaya magsulat o di kaya, alam mo yun, basta challenge sa pagsusulat, sa pagbabasa, sa pag-i-spell, yun yung mga exact words nila.
Okay. So, how does the CVIF-DLP address challenged learners or to those who have difficulties in reading and comprehension? So,
Yes,
this
ma'am.
can be addressed with the design of the LAS. As mentioned earlier, CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, LAS are classified into regular, enhancement, or supplementary,
Okay.
review, and remediation LAS.
Okay, so malinaw po yun, ano, yung good news kasi, itong mga learning activity sheets, tama po, Ma'am Julie, ready-made na siya by CVIF, the school, and then ng SDO Sarangani, ibibigay na po ng Department of Education doon po sa ating mga audience ngayon, ano, mga eskwelahan na affected by the disasters. Tama po,
Yes.
Ma'am Julie, no? Ready
Yes
na siya.
po, right.
Plug and play.
Right.
Ayun, okay. Ma'am, how about yung performance tasks? Paano yun kung nasa bahay yung bata? Maigi bang maituloy pa yung performance task or depende po sa strategy ng eskwelahan?
Yan po ang dapat na pagtutukan sa isang expert teacher. Kasi halimbawa, sa subject na TLE, may mga kailangan na magamit sila ng mga equipment. So, yung ginawa ng teacher, yung mga performance task na i-assign sa kanila sa bahay na pwedeng mga makukuha lang na available lang at home. For example, TLE, first quarter for example, sewing, they can sew at hand by hand, di ba? While hindi mo na magmagamit ng sewing machine. And then for cooking, pwede naman yung mga magluluto sila, of course, with the supervision of the parents. Yung mga ganun lang. So dapat kailangan talaga pag-isipan ng expert teacher yung performance task na magagamit nila yung mga equipment na available lang din sa bahay.
Paano yun, ma'am? Bali, pag siguro once na magbalikan na sila sa eskwelahan, pwedeng doon na lang siya i-schedule, ganun po.
Pwede naman din po, at saka pwede din po din naman sa bahay, magagawan din po yun, pero kailangan din siguro, or maybe they can submit the output through video, di ba? Pwede naman mapakita nila na sila talaga ang gumawa. Tapos isisend sa teacher.
Yeah, mabalik ako dun, ma'am, nung panahon ng pandemic, sabi ninyo, dahil ang mga estudyante ninyo hindi lang po nasa Hagna, no? Nasa mga nakapalibot na municipalities din, kinailangan yung mag-coordinate with the barangay, tapos gumawa ng mga hubs or centers kung saan pwede mag-pick up or mag-surrender ng mga LAS. Di ba mahirap yun?
Hindi naman po, Sir David, kasi nung time ng pandemic, talagang supportive naman ng mga LGU at saka barangay official. So yung time na nagpapadala kami ng sulat, nagre-response naman sila immediately. Tapos yung tumutulong nga sila sa pag-duty, yung mga teachers na andun sa each drop-off station. Andun din
Talaga?
oo. Tas sila pa nga nag-o-offer ng snacks for the teachers. So we are grateful for them.
Gani. So that it takes a village really to raise a child, to educate a child. Ano naman po ang feedback ng mga magulang nung time na yon? Of course, ngayon po, kaya natin ito pinag-uusapan kasi yung mga eskwelahan natatanggap ng ating learning activity sheets, ready-made na po, ganito yung halos yung sitwasyon. Pero ito, doble-doble talaga yung sa pandemic, Kamusta ang cooperation ng mga estudyante, ng mga parents? Successful naman po ba yung ginawa ninyo na ganoong mode of learning?
At present po or during the
Nung time na yun, ma'am, opo.
during the pandemic kasi, pag mahirapan kami na mag-communicate sa mga parents or sa mga guardians, nagsusulat kasi kami, tapos binibigyan talaga sila namin ng mga guidelines kung paano nila kukunin yung mga LAS, saan sila tutungo, for example, sa mga Draco station. So, hindi naman siguro kami nahirapan kasi 'di ba sanay naman din yun ng mga bata at saka alam din naman yung ng mga parents. Oriented na kasi sila yung about sa dynamic learning program.
Pero nung mga una-una, halimbawa nung bago kayo nag-implement ng DLP totally nung 2002 o di kaya based po sa mga trainings na na-hold nyo na po, anong kwento ng mga first time na nag-implement ng DLP at gumamit ng learning activity sheets? Ano yung mga hinaing nila, kumbaga?
Usually kasi yung mga parents they are happy to know about DLP kasi nga 'di ba pag walang no homework policy kasi Sir David, 'di ba? So yung mga bata nila pwede na sila makatulong sa bahay for example at saka talagang makikita na satisfied talaga yung mga parents during na makikita nila yung output sa mga bata na naka-compile talaga in the different color-coded portfolio kasi in one quarter, as you can see, a lot of activities in each subject area. Yun ang mga
Opo. Ang maganda nito, ma'am, na ma-maximize mo talaga yung learning time na inalat mo para sa bata. Parang tayo po, kung tayo ay nagtatrabaho, di ba, halimbawa, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., halimbawa lang po. So, punong-puno, kumbaga, ng trabaho or pag-aaral para sa mga bata yon. Tapos, kaya nabanggitin niyo na wala nang homework kasi baka pagod na nga sila, no? Pero, ma'am, halimbawa, tapos na ang schedule. So, nakapagsulat na sila ng ganyan. Okay lang ba na on their own, if they wanna study pa, papayagan pa natin?
Yes, maraming mga bata actually na at pagdating sa bahay kasi meron din naman tayong mga bata na parang siguro may mga yaya or walang ginagawa sa bahay pero in-extend pa rin nila yung pag-aaral. So sa kanila na din yun. Sa kanila na.
Naalala ko, tinanong ko si Sir Chris noon tsaka si Mama Rivic. In a nutshell, ano ho ba ang CVIF-DLP? Ang sabi nila, binibigyan mo ng tamang pagkakataon yung isipan natin, yung brain, na makapag-absorb ng education. Ma'am, meron tanong dito, nung nakaraan, kahapon, yung assessment exams. Paano daw ginagawa ang exam sa pamamagitan ng LAS? Meron pa nga bang exam?
Yes, meron in a take-home basis. Meron. Nagpapadala kami in a take-home basis. So, ano lang siguro, kailangan talaga na i-orient yung mga bata na yung sa during exam, it's like an assessment for their learning talaga. So, in a take, nag-answer sila sa mga exams.
Opo. Paano naman ang integrity nun, ma'am? Paano natin nasisigurado na kahit hindi lang exam, kahit yung mga activities nila na sila ba ang sumusulat nito, sila ang sumasagot? Paano yun, ma'am?
Yeah, honestly, 'di ba given naman yun na pwede silang
Oo.
pwede silang magtatanong sa mga magulang pero as long
Correct.
as sila talaga ang nagsusulat, 'di ba? Achievement na din yun kasi from the time na they are writing, they are really learning also.
Ano to, take note po, pinag-usapan kasi natin yung ngayong panahon, na talagang wala tayong pagkakataon na mag face-to-face or pumunta sa eskwelahan dahil nga suspended ang classes, apektado even yung mga pamilya nila. So, kung mayroong learning activity sheet na handang-handa na, good news, ibababa na lang po ng DepEd sa inyo. Mamaya pag-uusapan natin yan with Dr. Kabawatan. So, yun, ibig sabihin, continuous po ang learning. Ito pong contextualization kasi kung meron ng learning activity sheet, okay lang ba na i-tweak ito ng mga teachers natin para doon sa kanilang mga kabataan?
Yes po. Pwede nila i-modify po yung sa part sa exercises or activity. Ika nga, sabi ni Sir Desi, localized. Kasi may mga activities na pwede natin i-adapt in your area, pwede hindi applicable sa ibang area, di ba? So pwede naman din, pwede.
Ang grading system, ma'am, paano yun?
Same naman din.
Kada activity sheet, may grade ba yun? Paano yun, ma'am?
Yes, graded yung per LAS kasi it's satisfying din makikita sa mga bata na may grado yung LAS, yung output nila.
Ito ma'am, kasi kung ako yung estudyante, tapos from traditional, tapos ngayon magdi-DLP ako, gaano katagal na pag-explain or pagpapaliwanag yung binibigay natin para fully mag-grasp nila yung konsepto at ma-motivate sila na, o sige na nga, kailangan ko talaga magsulat kasi nga part ito ng learning na ginagawa ng LAS.
Kasi eventually, Sir David, pag andyan na sila sa klase, pag nakikita na nila yung learning activity sheets, parang nahihila kasi sila eh. Pag nakikita nila yung mga kaklase nila na nagsusulat, eventually nagsusulat na din sila. At saka nakikita din sa mga kuyas and ates nila din, yung mga recent students natin na ganun din yung ginagawa. Ganun na din yung nangyari.
Palagay ko nga ma'am, naalala ko kasi kanina at nung kahapon pinag-usapan natin yung habit forming. Parang 'di ba kapag paulit-ulit mong ginagawa yung isang bagay, hahanap-hanapin mo na siya pagdating sa halimbawa, na-experience mo ba yun tipong pagdating mo sa classroom, nakaabang na yung mga estudyante, ganun po ba yun?
Opo, unang-una talaga nilang hahanapin yung portfolio nila. Makipag-awayan pa nga pag nawawala yung mga LAS nila. Kasi parang ano na yun nila parang isang na parang talagang kinikip nila yon kasi nakikita talaga nila may output sila. Tapos at the end of the quarter, ika nga satisfying din sa side sa parents na makikita yung lahat na output na nakakompile.
Ito ba'y ginagawa na lang libro? Kasi dami nun 200 pages times how many subjects, no? Pwede nila i-compile. Kanila yun, ma'am. Iuwi nila yun. Tama ba?
Ano po?
Kanila po yung LAS na yun after the school year.
Yes, sa kanila na. Pinapadala po namin lahat ng portfolio sa kanila kasi it's a good din yun na pwede nilang kunan ng review when they will be taking an entrance examination in college.
Kanina po ma'am, tinanong ko si Sir Desi, ano yung impact sa estudyante? Kayo po, ano ba yung impact naman sa inyo, personal, halimbawa, o sa mga co-faculty ninyo, co-leaders ng eskwelahan? Sila ba naging masipag din ba sa pag-check ng learning activity sheets, sa pag-i-assess, sa pagsisigurado na dapat talaga maayos yung learning ng mga bata?
Yes po, dapat talaga kasi it's one of the duties naman talaga sa teacher yung mag-check. Kasi pag nag-check ka sa output ng learning activity sheets ng mga bata, talagang nakikita mo yung performance nila. Nababasa mo talaga, nakikita mo na saan ba talaga sila mahina sa isang topic or anong topic na kailangan talaga nila ng mas tutukan. So, kasi pag hindi sila nag-assess, paano nila ma-deliver ng insakto yung isang lesson, isang LAS, 'di ba? So, eventually na yun parang it's also parang it's a selfless act to check each LAS of the student.
Ma'am, before I ask for your final message, pahabol lang po. Pwede ba ang peer-to-peer na checking of papers o exchange papers then mag-check tayo?
We don't allow to check other students' output. We don't allow that for privacy reason. We don't allow. We don't even allow them to read scores in class. For privacy. Talagang ang nag-check lang talaga yung expert teacher lang. Kasi siya yung nag-a-assess ng performance for each student.
Sige po, meron pang isang tanong dito pero baka later na lang yung AI, paano pag gumagamit sila ng mga generative AI sa pagsagot ng mga papel. But anyway, Ma'am Julie, thank you ha. Please, meron ka bang a little short words of encouragement para sa mga co-teachers natin dito sa Luzon at maging sa buong bansa po?
Yun po, kapit lang po tayo. If you need assistance, andito naman yung CVIF at saka yung mga DLP ambassadors at saka yung partners natin in education, yung PLDT Smart Foundation. So, yeah, I believe with the saying or the slogan, no learner left behind, or shall I say, with the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, no learner left behind. And also, we should always extend our continuing cooperation and efforts at extending our help that our students can learn despite of these challenging times. Thank you po.
Ayun. Maraming salamat po, Ma'am Julie. 'Di ba? This is really bayanihan at its finest eh. Sabi nga nung isa dito, no, si Miss Tots, sabi niya, maganda ang LAS po. I had this experience when I was in Pampanga back in 2014 to 2017. Until now, naka-LAS pa rin ang Holy Trinity School. Compiled ang LAS nila personally sa kanila na yan. Can be used for self-study na rin. Okay. Ito po, to further our discussion, as previously noted by Ms. Stephanie Orlino, kanina po, the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program has experienced substantial growth since its inception in 2002. The program has successfully trained more than 16,000 educators and is currently being implemented in over 1,000 educational institutions. Let's get to know more about the stories of these implementers. Please welcome si Ms. Donna Panes, CID Chief ng DepEd Sarangay. Donna.
Hello everyone. I'd like to thank PLDT and SMART as well as DepEd Central Office for inviting me here to share our story about CVIF Dynamic Learning Program in the Division of Sarangani. It is great to see you all here. I am Donna Panes, the Chief of the Curriculum Implementation Division of the Division of Sarangani. This afternoon, I'll be sharing to you our experiences in the implementation of the dynamic learning program before pandemic, during pandemic, during the time that we were stricken by heat index, flood, peace and order challenge, and even in face-to-face learning modality. Firstly, I would like to give you a brief background about Sarangani Province. We will be telling you how we embrace the DLP in Sarangani, paano namin ito sinimulan, paano namin ito na-innovate, at higit sa lahat, ano ang mga impact ng program na ito sa Division of Sarangani. May I bring all of you to the province of Sarangani. As we all know, Sarangani is the homeland of our famous boxer, Manny Pacquiao. And aside from that, this province is a showcase of cultural diversity and inclusivity, a haven where the indigenous peoples are not marginalized, but are very much part of the community building, policy making, and governance. Our province is located in the southernmost part, mainland of Mindanao. It is one of the poorest provinces in the Philippines. It is predominantly inhabited by the indigenous peoples, represented by 55% of its total population. There are three major tribes in our province: the Blaan, Tiboli, and Tagakaolo. We have a total of 325 schools, of which 220 have 90 to 100 IP enrollment. Most of the IP schools are located in far-flung and geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas with no electricity, no mobile signal, and no internet. In fact, ang pinakamalayo naming paaralan ay kailangan mo i-cross ang 56 na rivers bago mo ma-reach ang paaralan namin sa Glan, Sarangani Province. Bago na-introduce ang ang dynamic learning program sa Division of Sarangani, may I bring all of you to the context of our division. We have language mismatch. Teachers and teachers as well as kinder to grade 3 students in indigenous people schools are using materials not in their mother tongue. And also, our teachers do not speak the language of the learners. And also, we have resource gap. May mga shortages talaga kami sa learning materials na kung saan aligned sa indigenous knowledge and skills or systems and practices ng ating mga IPs. And also, we have issue about funding. We don't have enough money to provide our learning materials per student. Kasi nga, ang SEF ng province namin ay nasa 8 million lang. So, nabilong pa talaga kami sa one of the poorest provinces. So, medyo challenge talaga ang funding. And lastly, logistic challenge. It is difficult to deliver the bulky learning resource to remote schools. Kasi nga, ang isa sa mga mode of transportation namin ay ang kabayo, and yung habal-habal, I don't know if you are familiar with the habal-habal, yung single motor vehicle. Ito yung sinasakyan ng mga teachers namin sa mga GIDA schools namin. So ito yung context ng Division of Sarangani bago dumating ang DLP. In 2017, pumunta ang PLDT and Smart Communication sa Division of Sarangani. They introduced to us the CVIF Dynamic Learning Program. At sabi namin, very timely ang pag-introduce ng DLP kasi nga kulang kami sa mga resource materials sa mga IP-dominated schools namin. Next slide, please. So with our convergence with the smart communications, we were able to develop 2,500 learning activity sheets for Blaan, Tiboli, and Tagakaulo for 7 IP schools. We also trained 60 teachers and honed DLP ambassadors to support the iPad and Alive classes. From 7 schools, we expanded to 45 IP schools. And we facilitated a DepEd workshop to develop 5,600 contextualized learning activity sheets for K-3 IP learners across learning areas. Meaning from 7, nag-expand kami sa 45, and then mas dinamihan pa ang pag-develop ng learning activity sheets sa 3 languages ng Division of Sarangani. So, during the pandemic, ang pinaka-problema talaga namin ay ang paano itawid ang education sa mga remote schools namin given na may mga maraming restrictions sa boundaries. Ang mga teachers were assigned sa far-flung schools ay they are residing dito sa Patag banda. So may mga restrictions. So the only options na binigay sa atin dati, kung maalala natin, ay ang SLMs, ang online classes, ang TV-based, at saka ang RBI. So, among these 4 choices, parang sa SLM lang talaga kami po pwede. So, during the first quarter, next slide please, during the first quarter of the pandemic, kung maalala natin, ay kanya-kanya tayo print ng SLM. So, yun, tinawid namin ang education, pati sa remote schools namin, gumamit kami ng self-learning modules. Now, based sa monitoring namin, napakahirap sa part ng Sarangani na itawid through SLM. Kasi nga, ang mga SLM ay kailangan pang ihaul ng kabayo, at saka kung hindi man kabayo, kailangan siyang isakay sa motor. And then, yeah, you cannot imagine a 32-page SLM times number of subjects na ipiprint ng teachers. So ito yung challenge namin. At yung dito naman sa Patag, ang mga teachers naman natin, parang sila na lang yata yung hindi natutulog that time kasi sila yung nagpiprint ng SLM nila. So may mga findings din kami na ang SLM ay binabalik sa amin na walang, or sa mga teachers natin na walang answer. So, that time kasi, hindi lang ako chief ng Division of Sarangani, kundi mother pa ako ng isang grade 2 pupil. So, doon ko mismo nakita na ang anak ko ay nagka-tantrum habang binabrowse niya ang 32 page na SLM. So, we have these findings and I have this experience with my daughter. So, yun ang point na pinatawag namin ang mga education program supervisors at tinanong kung kaya lang bang i-cover ng learning activity sheets ang lahat ng competencies. So we have a workshop, 5-day workshop, and then ni-review ng aming mga education program supervisors because I really consider our EPS as the content expert of the different subject areas. So they said na ma'am, kakayanin lang ng learning activity sheets na i-cover ang mga competencies. So with that thought, we recommend to our schools division superintendent na instead of SLM ay mag-transition kami sa learning activity sheets. So medyo hindi nahihirapan ang division of Sarangani because we have 2 years experience in using the learning activity sheets sa mga far-flung schools namin. So from SLM nag-transition kami. So instead of printing the SLM ay nagpa-print kami ng learning activity sheets. But prior to that, nagkaroon kami ng development of learning activity sheets with the help of SMART at saka ng CVIF-DLP. So, madalian yun siya pero naitawid namin and we underwent a process sa LRMDS para sa development, hindi lang development kundi pati ang pag-quality assure ng bawat learning activity sheets at pati ang field testing. So, dumaan talaga ito siya sa proseso ang aming development. So, with that, the division office decided to transition from SLM to learning activity sheets. So, napakalaki ng savings ng Division of Sarangani because of this decision. In fact, ang learning activity sheets ng Division of Sarangani ang nakasave sa Region 12 during the time na na-delay ang distribution, that was 3rd quarter or 4th quarter I think, na-delay ang distribution ng SLM from central office. So, after the pandemic, may nailagay na namin ang learning activity sheets na ito sa Sarangani DepEd portal. So every time na ginagamit yung mga teachers natin as coach, as trainer, participant sa mga training, hindi na kami nahihirapan kasi ito na ang piniprint ni teacher at saka ibibigay sa mga estudyante. So dito sa Division of Sarangani, merong marching order ang ating Superintendent Ruth Estacio na bawat schools ay kailangan meron talagang na-print na learning activity sheet so that in the event na may suspension of classes, ang kalimitan na nasususpend kami dito is sa flood din at saka sa heat index and even the peace and order challenge. So ito yung mga ipinamimigay namin. So aside from learning activity sheets, we also innovate na nagkaroon kami ng LR on Wheels, nagkaroon kami ng radio-based instruction at pinapartner namin itong learning activity sheets. So next slide please. May I share to you ano naman ang impact nito sa division namin. So, the division office and schools have reduced reproduction costs. Sa nasabi ko kanina, napakalaki ng savings namin kasi instead na magpiprint ka ng 32 pages ay nasa 3 pages na lang yung isang competency. So, one objective, one last kasi kami. So, sometimes nakakaroon ng 3 last sa isang competency to cover ng sa isang linggo na pagko-cover sa competency. The delivery and retrieval of the less bulky last has become easier. So, hindi na bulto-bulto yung dinadala ng mga teachers, hindi na rin nahihirapan ang kabayo and even the habal-habal para i-deliver ito. At saka, the development of the last take lesser time. Teachers have more time to develop other content for all learning areas. And also, monitoring and evaluating learners' performance using LAS is less taxing for teachers. Kasi ang LAS kasi at a glance, na nakikita mo si concept digest, nakikita mo activity, nakikita mo yung assessment. Then pag return ng mga bata, nakikita mo kaagad ang kanilang right there, ang kanilang score. At a glance, nakikita mo kung na-master ba ni bata o hindi. At higit sa lahat, ang pinakamaganda maganda dito is nasisigurado natin na nasusulat talaga ni bata ang learning activity sheets. Kasi ang feature ng learning activity sheets ay kailangan talaga siyang ikopya. The whole of it ay kailangan ikopya. Ang wisdom naman natin dito sa pagpapakopya ay kapag sinusulat kasi ng bata ay mas nare-retain sa brain cells niya kung ano yung sinusulat niya. So ang tanong dito, ma'am, sigurado ka ba na ang nag-answer nito ay ang mga estudyante? So alam naman natin na hindi naman talaga tayo 100% na sigurado na sila ang nag-answer. But ang sa akin lang naman bilang chief, ang konsuelo ko lang naman is kapag nasusulat nila somehow ay may nare-retain talaga sa kanila. At saka, depende na rin yan sa motivation ng mga teachers kung paano ito siya itatawid. And that is for the yung may mga cancellation ng classes o itong kagaya dito sa nangyari sa regions na na-stricken ng Kristine, so ito yung applicable siya. During naman sa face-to-face, applicable din siya kasi ginagawa namin itong supplemental materials. So, hahawakan ito siya ay aansira ni bata, especially sa mga sa mga intervention namin sa reading, gamit na gamit talaga ang learning activity sheets kasi very concrete yung hinahawakan ni teacher at the same time na i-ensure natin na sinusulat talaga ni bata. And of course, ito na, we reduce number of non-readers especially in far-flung schools kasi nga sabi ko, may concrete na hinahawakan ang bata. Okay, next slide please. I'll be sharing to you the impact also of integrating the DLP LAS in IPED. Alam ko sa ibang regions meron kayong mga indigenous peoples dyan. So kung itong LAS ng Division of Sarangani ay isi-share namin sa inyo. So kung if you feel na pwede ito siyang i-contextualize, pwede ito siyang i-localize base sa context ng inyong mga learners, especially sa mga indigenous peoples. So nakikita namin na isa sa mga impact nito ay learners are more interested to learn because the materials are written in language that is familiar to them. So yun ang sinabi ko na pwede ninyong i-translate, pwede ninyong i-contextualize. Good results of assessment because activities are simple, instructions and concepts are clear and concise. Yun talagang pinakamagandang feature ng learning activity sheets. Simple, concise, precise, at saka at a glance nakikita mo. Improvement in performance levels in learning areas as comprehension is achieved and language and culture are preserved and promoted. So kapag na-contextualize mo, kapag nagagamit nyo rin ito sa inyong region using the language of your indigenous peoples, I am sure na magkakaroon ng sense of ownership ang ating mga community barriers, ang ating mga community leaders kasi nga i-involve natin sila in the development of these learning activity sheets. At the same time, napapanitili natin ang appreciation ng IKSP, ng mga IPs, at saka higit sa lahat na preserve natin ang kanilang mga indigenous knowledge systems and practices. So, next slide please. I will present also to you the KPI of the Division of Sarangani habang ginagamit namin ang learning activity sheet. So, makikita natin dyan, increasing ang aming participation, transition, completion, promotion, graduation from 2020 up to 2023. So, sa ways forward naman, as of now, existing ang ating learning activity sheets from kinder to grade 12. And we are very willing to lend this sa mga regions, yung mga andito ngayon. It is very, yung anong tawag nito, we are honored, no? We are honored to share this. So, ang plano namin dito, we continue to use LAS as supplementary material sa face-to-face, continue with the development of contextualized learning activity sheets and ongoing workshop sessions to enhance and digitize. So, as of now, we are having this digitization sa mga existing materials namin and hopefully, masishare din namin ito kung sakasakaling magiging stable na rin ang inyong mga physical, tawag nito, challenge sa ating mga paaralan sa regions na biktima ng Typhoon Kristine. So with that, thank you so much.
Ma'am Donna, thank you po sa lahat po ng kasama namin ngayon dito sa Zoom, sa Facebook, sa YouTube ng DepEd Philippines, sa sinishare na posts ng PLDT and Smart Communities. Tara po, sali tayo sa usapan. Ito po sa ating Q&A. Just type your questions in the comments section or chat it dyan po sa ating mga chat boxes. Ma'am Donna, I think na-touch niyo po yung isang tanong kanina, paano daw pag gumagamit ng AI or itong mga estudyante natin kapag ta-type nila tapos kokopyahin yung sagot. Para sa inyo ma'am, kahit paano okay na rin yun, ganun po. Dahil meron
As of
silang
now
pagkatuto.
kasi ito naman talaga ang trend. No? Ito naman talaga ang trend. We cannot really deny the fact na ito na talaga ang trend. No? Andito na ito, andyan na si ChatGPT, andyan na ang mga AI. So, ang challenge na lang dito or ang motivation na lang natin dito is depende na ito sa teacher, no? We empower our teacher, may mga technology naman tayo how to check, di ba? Kung
Correct.
AI
Oo
ba yan
nga.
siya o hindi. And then also, the mere fact na sinusulat nila, basta nag-copy lang talaga sila sa learning activity sheets, I don't think so na wala talaga mariretain sa mga brain cells nila. Meron talaga yan.
Yeah, yeah. At saka alam ko parang nabanggit nga ni ni MJ siya yung namumuno ng education program ng PLDT and Smart. Merong niro-roll out ang PLDT and Smart about AI, kung paano yung maayos na paggamit nito. Tapos yun nga, of course, paano na rin mapoprotektahan yung mga bata against sa mga adverse effects nitong ganitong klaseng mga material. So thank you to PLDT and Smart sa pag-roll out ng ganitong mga problema. Tsaka yun nga, at the end of the day, writing talaga, doon tayo babagsak. At saka, tama po ma'am, kasi kung chine-check mo, binabasa mo araw-araw yung regularly binabasa yung mga gawa ng mga bata, makikilala mo sila no? Tama po?
Opo, kasi ang handwriting nila, Sir Dave, makikita naman yun doon. At saka ito, hindi naman talaga ito yung primary material na ibibigay natin sa mga learners during face-to-face, nagiging supplemental lang naman ito siya.
Okay. Ma'am, ang Sarangani po based sa presentation niyo kanina, napaka-inclusive ng inyong education. Kasi nga po, you have 3 tribes bukod po sa iba pang mga sinaserve niyo na estudyante. Talaga pong kinontextualize ninyo yung LAS using their language, so now they really appreciate the learning. Tama po?
Opo, Sir Dave, kasi nga multilingual talaga ang Division of Sarangani. We cater more than 5 languages in one classroom. In fact, may mga Muslim brothers din kami dito aside sa mga indigenous peoples namin. So we really need to move forward to innovate para magiging inclusive yung education natin.
At dun sa in that light ibig sabihin ito pong good news ng Department of Education na meron na pong gawang learning activity sheets ang CVIF at ang DepEd Sarangani na ipapadala sa kanila. Good to go, plug and play, pwede na pong gamitin agad. Pwede rin naman nilang i-contextualize. Tama po?
Opo, Sir Dave. In the event na may makikita sila na mga items na pwede pang i-improve, feel free to let us know through Smart or through DepEd kay Sir Mick na para mas lalo nating mapaganda kasi hindi lang naman ito pagmamay-ari ng Division of Sarangani, atin ito lahat. So pagtulong-tulungan natin para mas lalong mapaganda ito.
Oo, alam nyo kasi iba I mean, it's not easy to share. Kasi whenever you give, you take a part of yourself So ibinibigay mo sa kanila yung ibinuhos mo na oras, pagod doon sa material na yon. So we really salute kayo pong DepEd Sarangani, kasama ng CVIF at ng mga iba nang tumutulong dito sa CVIF-DLP. Geographic challenges. Yung pinakamalayo, tatawid ng 56 rivers. Grabe ma'am, Yun. Ibig sabihin, kung nasaan ang estudyante, talagang inaabot po ninyo.
Alam mo, Sir Dave, bilang CID Chief ng Division of Sarangani, hindi lang curriculum ang in-embrace ko talaga ang trail run.
Really?
Kasi sabi ko, pag hindi ako nag-trail run, wala akong expertise o akong technical skills in trail running, hindi ko aabutin ang mga far-flung schools namin. So yun ang target namin. We really need to reach the boundaries of our schools. At yun,
Correct.
nare-reach naman namin. Kasama ko si SDS.
Nice. O yan
maglakbay.
ha, mga leaders talaga, they really go to the far-flung areas kung nasaan yung mga schools natin. Meron pong tanong si Janet, pwede po bang gamitin ang LAS for remedial classes? Ma'am Donna.
Pwede. Pwede po talaga. Kasi nga, itong LES sa mga tutors, binibigyan namin sila ng access para ito yung gagamitin nila in advance para sa mga tutees nila. So sa remedial din, pag medyo mahina ang bata, pwede nilang balikan ang mga previous na learning activity sheets at yun ang i-discuss nila.
Ayun, sige po. Siguro, I think meron ding insight dito si Director Kabawatan. Director, please, we invite you. Pwede bang pang remedial classes, pang makeup classes, itong ating LAS, CVIF-DLP? Yes, Director.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So kumbaga, it can actually be used for remedial classes talaga. One of the things we'll be discussing later on is how this DLP will be used specifically for remedial classes nga po sa ating emergency situation. So yung mga nasalanta po, pwede pong gamitin si DLP as a form of catch-up po for ensuring to minimize learning loss.
Yun. At saka I think this specific training talagang designed siya. Pinili natin yung component para doon sa mga teachers, students and schools, estudyante na naapektuhan nitong Kristine at saka ng mga paparating pa ng mga bagyo. Okay, kaya talagang design po ito for makeup and remedial classes. Ma'am Donna, medyo anuhin ko pa ha. Sabi mo kanina yung mga ginawa na learning activity sheets, dumaan siya sa LDRMS. Ibig sabihin subok na subok, may check, may approve, may approval tama po ng DepEd.
Yes, Sir Dave. Dumaan talaga ito siya sa proseso.
Gano'ng katagal yun, ma'am? Ginawa?
Matagal, Sir Dave. Matagal
Oo.
talaga. Kasi nga, from the development, kailangan mo pang i-train ang mga teachers na magsulat. So, mag-workshop kayo. And then,
Aha.
titingnan ito ng mga content experts, ng mga master teachers natin at saka mga education program supervisors. Isusulat ng mga content experts ang kanilang mga recommendations. Uulitin na naman ng developers. Isa-submit na naman uli. Pag na-perfect na, mag-agree na ngayon si evaluator at saka si writer, proceed na sa quality assurance. May ibang quality assurance din yung mga LRMDS natin sa font, sa ano pa yung mga ginagamit nila, plagiarism, ano-ano pa. Meron din tayo, nag-involve din tayo ng mga illustrators kasi hindi ka pwedeng basang-basang mag-copy-paste lang sa net. And then, may field testing pa tayo na nangyari. And then, continuous talaga. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na perfect talagang ginawa ng Division of Sarangani. I know, may makikita talaga kayo dyan. Ang sa amin lang, patuloy natin itong i-improve. Magkaroon tayo ng continuous improvement. Pagtulungan natin ito.
Sa mga nakikinig at nanonood po ngayon, dito sa ating Zoom, sa YouTube and Facebook, I hope you appreciate, the effort that went through creating the learning activity sheets. Hindi lang ng Sarangani, ng CVIF, kundi lahat ng mga nag-i-implement, yung 16,000 na tinrain ng PLDT and SMART, yung 1,000 eskwelahan na nag-i-implement ngayon, yung pamumuno ng Department of Education, it really takes a lot of courage, to say that Secretary Angara, okay, let's do this. 'Di ba? Kasi maraming challenges, 'di ba? Kasi nga magsusulat ang mga bata, kailangan ng bond paper, kailangan ng ganitong training. Pero, 'di ba? Kailangan ng ng conviction ng political will para mag-benefit yung ating mga kabataan. Sabi mo, Ma'am Donna, Sarangani, at alam naman natin 'to, is one of the most challenged provinces in the Philippines, tama po? One of the poorest, tama po ba? Tama po ba yung...
Opo.
Okay. Ma'am, baka kung ako yan, sabihin ko, wag dala kayo na lang. Pero kanina sabi mo, from 7 IT schools, nagkaroon kayo na ginawa nyong 45. Tapos, yun nga, kesyo tinatawid nyo yung mga ganitong lugar. Isasakay mo sa kabayo. Saan nagagaling yung yung drive ninyo, yung motivation? Kasi kung ako, baka umalis na lang ako ng probinsya.
Sir Dave, kung ikaw kasi ma-assign sa Division of Sarangani, tapos alam mo na majority of your schools ay sabihin natin, nasa laylayan. Kasi nga, pag sinabi nating indigenous peoples, kaakibat nito ay poverty.
Yeah.
At saka, alam natin na one of the poorest provinces ang province of Sarangani. So, kukunti lang talaga ang resources. So, kung ikaw ang leader, kailangan mo talaga mag-move forward, kailangan mo mag-linkage, kailangan mo mag-network, kailangan mo
Yeah.
mag-innovate para
No way to go
maitawid
but up.
ito. Oo, para maitawid mo. Kaya sabi ko, saan na ang mga partners natin? We really welcome lahat-lahat ng mga partners sa Sarangani because of this scenario. So, kung ikaw pa naman ma-assign sa mga ganong klaseng lugar, siguro hindi mo kakayaning talikuran sila ng ganon-ganon lang. Ang gagawin mo talaga is mag-isip ka talaga kung paano ito maitawid.
There you go. Ang DLP, hindi lang pampatalino, no? Pampabait din yan eh. Diba? I mean, character building talaga to eh. I mean, more than the talino ng mga bata, ng mga teachers natin. Ma'am, siguro ang magandang tips ninyo na ibibigay sa mga nakikinig ngayon, ano? Kasi pareho kayo ng sitwasyon, ano, na challenge yung pagbibigay halimbawa ng mga access to education. And then, meron kayong tinap ng mga civil society organizations bukod po sa private sector. Paano nyo ginawa yun, ma'am? Kanino kayo humingi ng tulong? Or sumulat lang ba kayo diretso sa NGO na iyon? Or paano, ma'am?
We capitalize the good relationship of DepEd and stakeholders. So, ang partners natin sa DepEd, of course, ang LGU. Ang LGU, ang dami nilang mga partners. So, we are taking the opportunity to present ang status ng DepEd ng Sarangani na ito ang kakailangan natin, ito yung status natin, ito ang scenario natin. So by that, ang daming na-attract na mga NGOs. Pag alam nila na one of the poorest provinces ang Sarangani, di ba, magfa-flock yan sila dito. And then so that's the time na i-introduce kami ng mga kakailanganin namin. And then maintain the good relationship sa mga stakeholders. And welcome all stakeholders na pumupunta. Yun lang ang sekreto namin.
Ayun, maigi, no? Para ma-sustain po ha. Kasi what we're doing now is you're taking a step towards transformation na sustainable. And for you to be able to sustain it, kailangan mo talaga ng buong community para tulungan ka. You know, you have to believe in yourself so that other people will believe in you. No budget, no problem. Diba? Example mo, Ma'am Donna, no budget, no problem. Tapos itong learning activity sheet, sabi ni Ma'am Donna, simple, concise, and precise. So I think, you know, in targeting sa mga leaders natin, sa superintendents, dapat ganun din, ano? Simple, concise, precise. Wala na munang non-essentials. Focus tayo dun sa mga kabataan natin. Okay, Ma'am Donna, maybe a very short message na lang, ano? Onti pa, i-motivate mo pa itong mga first time na mag-i-implement, gagamit itong LAS sa panahon ng disaster.
Para sa mga teachers natin na nasa lanta ng bagyo, ramdam ko ang hirap na dinaanan ninyo kasi hindi lang sa edukasyon ang dinaramdam nyo ngayon, kundi higit sa lahat may mga personal din kayo na dinadaanan. Ngunit higit sa lahat, patuloy tayo sa hawak kamay tayo na itawid ang education sa ating mga paaralan kasi nga tayo bilang mga guro ay tinagurian na isa sa pinakamatibay, isa sa may pinakamahabang pasensya at tayo ay anointed, no? I-claim natin na anointed talaga tayo by God to develop the full potential of our learners. Hawakan natin ang misyon na ibinigay ng Panginoon sa atin despite the challenges. I on behalf of the division of Sarangani with the leadership of our SDS Ruth Estacio, we are very willing to lend our learning activity sheets nang sa ganun ay mapagaan at maibsan din ang mga dinaramdam nyo ngayon. So rest assured na maganda ang material na ito, but in the event na may gusto kayong i-improve, just feel free to contact us para mas lalo nating mapaganda.
Salamat po. So good, so humble. Talaga naman, mabuhay po ang Sarangani at lahat ng mga teachers dyan sa inyong probinsya at sa buong Pilipinas.
Thank
To
you po.
conclude our discussion, we will now turn our attention to the actual implementation of CVIF-DLP in your respective schools. The following segment, makinig po, will explore potential strategies and innovative approaches to address the challenges we've discussed. To guide us better, we invite, once again, Director Mick Kabawatan from the Office of the Secretary of the Department of Education. Director?
Yes, good afternoon everyone po. So pag-uusapan na po natin ngayon kung paano po ito magagamit sa inyong mga eskwelahan. So pag-usapan po natin yung background po ng DLP, kung ano po yung mga pillars po nito. Ngayon, paano naman siya gagamitin sa araw-araw po ninyo? So next. Next please. So yun. For information lang po ng lahat, kaya po kayo imbitahan dito ngayon ay dahil i-run po ang DLP sa ating mga schools that were affected ng Tropical Storm Kristine, sa bagyong Kristine. Tapos nung pinag-usapan po namin kasama ng mga regional directors, ay nalaman po namin na may mga ibang schools at SDOs po na apektado naman po ng mga bagyong previous to Kristine pa, pero hindi pa rin nakakapag-resume ng face-to-face classes. So, ang decision po dun ay isama na rin po itong mga pre-Kristine hit areas at ang mga Kristine hit areas. At dito po irarun po yung DLP bilang isang mode ng alternative delivery. So sa Region CAR, may 8 divisions na kasama po dito. Region 1, 3 divisions. Region 2, 7 na divisions. Region 3, 6 na divisions. Region 4A, 23 or lahat ng divisions. At sa Region 5, may 6 na divisions. At of course po, since natututunan na rin po natin kung paano gamitin yung DLP, the emergency situation na ito, ay pwede na rin po siyang gamitin sa mga further disasters po. Knock on wood, sana po wala. Pero kung may dumating pa po ng mga bagyo or ibang mga emergencies or disasters, pwede na rin pong gamitin ang DLP bilang isang alternative delivery mode po. Next. So the question is, ano ba yung modality ng implementation? Paano po ba ito gagawin? First and foremost, gusto lang po namin sabihin na discretion din po ninyo kung paano siya fully i-implement. So the divisions, the regions, and schools will be given the flexibility to implement as long as the pillars of DLP are implemented. So kayo po ang may alam ng totoong sitwasyon sa inyong mga eskwelahan, sa inyong mga mag-aaral. So kayo rin po ang makakapagsasabi kung paano niyo po magagamit yung DLP para sa inyong locality po, sa inyong school. So kung anong modes po yan, kung later we'll talk about the different modes, basta yung pillars ng DLP may implement, meaning magagamit yung LAS na isusulat po talaga siya ng bata, tapos i-check at magpro-provide ng feedback based sa results ng LAS po. And then, as was discussed in the previous discussion, the earlier discussion, yung mga pillars ng DLP, kailangan pong ma-implement po yun. May mga matters lang na kailangan i-take into account or i-remember po natin sa pag-implement natin ng DLP. Una, for Key Stage 1, ito yung Kinder to Grade 3, ipa-prioritize po sila sa ating full in-person classes at sa paggamit ng temporary learning spaces. So, napag-usapan po natin earlier na ang DLP usually para to sa mga independent learners. At dahil yung mga key stage 1 po natin, kailangan po nila ng direct instruction usually to sort of develop basic literacy and numeracy. Baka mas better nga na full in-person at full instruction po ang i-provide sa kanila. So, kung may classrooms po tayo na available na hindi na salanta, or may temporary learning spaces po tayo na available na pwedeng gamitin, iunahin po natin yung mga key stage 1 for in-person classes. Pangalawa, yung CVIF-DLP will be further integrated as a mainstream ADM in the upcoming ADM policy. Katulad po ng sinabi namin, kayo po yung mga mauunang mag-implement ng DLP sa DepEd. Or rather, sa panahon ito, kumbaga, not sa DepEd naman necessarily. Ito ay dahil may planong ipasok si DLP bilang isang alternative delivery mode sa policy na currently ginagawa ng Bureau of Learning Delivery. So, yung experiences po na makakagilap ninyo kung paano ninyo ginawa yung DLP, kung paano ninyo in-operationalize sa inyong mga schools at sa divisions, makukolektahin din po namin yan, yung feedback po ninyo, para ma-inform yung ating ADM policy of how to possibly improve it. Tapos, for example, yung mga LAS, for example, yung provide sa atin, thank you again to SDO Sarangani and to CVIF for providing the LASs. Baka naman po, later on, we can develop our own LASs as well. Whether standardized LAS yun, DepEd-wide, or sort of guidelines of how to create your own LASs and have them approved. Kasama na po yun sa policy later on pa po, down the road sa ADM policy. So for now, gagamitin po natin yung mga LAS na provided na po sa atin para parang fit to go na po siya. Of course, if you want to make any tweaks, as necessary lang po. Third, remember to manage your stakeholders. Katulad po nung sinabi kanina sa ating first and second presentation, importante po na ma-communicate sa ating mga parents, sa ating mga students, at other stakeholders kung ano yung value nitong DLP. Magtatanong sila, sabi nga, bakit sulat ng sulat yung bata? Anong instruction ang nangyayari? Bakit palaging nagsusulat nga at collect ng collect? Dito natin kailangan i-communicate properly na based on scientific knowledge ito, na it's based on retention studies, it's based on the experience of multiple schools nationwide, it's based on science talaga, na students will learn better if they write things down. And then this is the basis po for using the LASs. So as long as we communicate this clearly, katulad nung ginawa ng CVIF at ng Sarangani Division, that should be part of how we implement DLP po. Next. So one possible modality for implementation is the conduct and makeup classes. So for those schools po, sa mga eskwelahan na back to school na po tayo, so lahat ng usable learning spaces ay hindi naman nasira, so pwede silang gamitin. Or if we have temporary learning spaces na pwedeng gamitin for everyone, hindi na po tayo kumbaga ADM mode, kumbaga makeup mode po tayo. So we conduct makeup classes either on weekends or after school. Pagkatapos ng eskwelahan, mag-makeup class. Tapos yung LAS po natin, hahanapin po natin yung LAS na tugma doon sa lesson na na-miss nila during the missing class days, or yung makeup, agma sa makeup class na kailangan nilang i-take. Tapos, nag-serve na rin siya as a diagnostic tool. Pag na-provide mo yung LAS sa mga bata, isusulat nila, i-check mo, at makikita ninyo yung mga konsepto na hindi naintindihan ng mga bata. Tapos yun lang, theoretically, ang i-lecture mo. So kumbaga, LAS po sila, tapos katulad nga po ng sinabi ng ating implementers sa Davao Christian High School, 15 to 20 minutes lang po ang instruction time based sa ano yung mga konsepto na hindi naintindihan. In this way, mamiminimise natin yung instruction time. So, imbis na humaba pa ng humaba yung instruction time, pwede silang magsulat lang and then check. And then the next session, for example, 15 to 20 minutes lang instruction. So that maximizes their instruction time and the use of our classrooms. Pwede po yan as a modality, yung ating makeup class. Next. The other modality is for those na, for schools that cannot conduct in-school classes, or for example, merong in-person suspensions muna. So, for those schools, for example, na hanggang ngayon ay hindi pa rin akma yung mga learning spaces dahil nasira or na-wash out or in disrepair or needing repair yung mga classrooms. Or, pag for example, may dumating na naman, knock on wood, na emergency or natural disaster, pwede natin gamitin itong modality na to as an ADM. So one possibility is doing fully remote online learning. The discussion earlier was may mga SDOs kasi na meron namang support from external parties or may kakayahan naman for data, internet, at merong tablets yung mga bata, for example, you can do fully remote online learning. Meaning, i-upload through Messenger or through Google Drive or through whatever LMS, if meron pong existing LMS ang ating SDO. Tapos, ida-download ng bata, isusulat niya yung LAS, tapos, i-picture na niya yung LAS, ipapadala uli sa teacher. Pwede po yun. And then, i-check ni teacher yung LAS, kukunin yung konsepto na hindi naintindihan at magko-conduct ng online classes po. So that is one possibility, the conduct of fully online remote learning as a modality. For those naman po na walang kakayahan for internet access or digital access, meron tayo, as discussed, yung drop-off pick-up mode katulad ng ginawa ng CVIF. So at certain areas, pwedeng i-drop off ni teacher, let's say sa school, si teacher nandun, ibibigay niya yung LAS para sa linggong yon sa kanyang mga estudyante or sa mga friends, or i-cascade through, for example, sa barangay, or sa local government, or through the parents nga. Tapos sasagutan ng mga bata yung kanilang mga LAS sa bahay, and then, i-drop off yung completed LASs sa drop-off point ulit, tapos check ni teacher. Pwede pong ganon. And then either i-annotate ni teacher for those na hindi talaga kayang mag-on-site classes, pwedeng annotation lang ni teacher na kung ano dapat yung correct answer, kung i-explain through the paper, balik sa bata para makukutingnan nila kung ano yung naging sort of difference. Or, we go to the third mode, yung conduct of in-school and off-site. Kumbaga, pag nakuha mo, let's say drop-off pick-up, pag na-pick up na ni teacher, correct niya, and then pwede kayong gumamit ng whether temporary learning space or kung ano mang available na classroom para mag-conduct ng ating direct instruction. Ulit, na-minimize yung direct instruction under DLP, so 15 to 20 minutes ng mga concepts lang na hindi naintindihan. So pwede nyo gawin yun once a week, for example. So depende po yun sa schedule ng inyong school, kung ilan yung available learning spaces ninyo, kung ilan yung fit ninyo sa learning spaces ninyo. That will be how you determine the modality po. So in this case, whether online or fully offline or in-school off-site or ISOS, that will depend on the situation po that you have in your locality. Kasi kayo rin naman po ang makakaalam how best to implement this. Kumbaga, this is only a methodology for you to still conduct learning during emergency situations. Next. Okay, so next steps, how do we implement this? First question is, paano nyo makukuha yung mga learner activity sheets? Ipro-provide na po natin yung mga learner activity sheets na ready to go. Pwede na pong gamitin directly at the end of the session po. Bigay po kami ng QR code at link where you can download the files. Pasalamatan po ulit natin ang ating SDO Sarangani at si Central Visayan Institute Foundation. Si Sarangani has LASs for all key stages 1 to 4 from kinder to 12. And for CVIF, meron po silang for key stage 3 and 4. So for high school and senior high school, may choice po kayo as to which LAS you'd want to use for your classes po. Second, yung cascading of learner activity sheets. When you download it po, how you want to cascade it to other teachers, for example, or to your students will depend on your situation or your preferred mode of cascading. Pwede po kasi itong ipapaprint sa region, ipapaprint sa SDO, tapos ikakascade sa mga teachers. That will depend on your SDO and region. Or pwedeng school-based siya kasi pwedeng procurement or through printing services, funding of which pag-uusapan po natin later. That will depend on you po. And then yung how to implement DLP, whether through drop-off pickup, whether through online, or whether through other modes, will depend as well on your situation. So kayo, like I said, kayo lang naman po ang makakaalam how best to implement this. Kayo ang may alam kung ilan classrooms ang meron kayong in this repair, ilang classrooms yung available for direct instruction. So You can talk to your principal within your school, talk to your STO as to what mode will best fit your needs for now. And then of course, kami naman po on our end, dahil as I said, we're trying to integrate it into the ADM policy. We will be coordinating with your regional offices, with your STOs, and with you, possibly, to ask about what implementation modes you were able to undertake, and then what practices you used, and what your experience is in using the LASs. So yun po. So the question is, yun nga po, paano po pondohin yung pag-print ng mga LAS? Meron po kasi currently yung FLO or yung Flexible Learning Options na funding na provide sa ating regions. Pwede pong gamitin yung funding po na yon kung meron pa pong naiwan, or pwede mag-request ng bagong funding. Yung FLO funding po kasi, theoretically, para siya sa pag-print ng mga SLM. Nalaman po namin mula sa mga RDs po natin na sa ibang mga regions, ibang mga SDOs, na-wash out din pati yung mga currently developed SLMs. So, either kailangan mag-reprint ng SLM, pero ang nakita po kasi natin, mas cost-effective ang ating mga LAS. So, kumbaga, it's only one sheet per lesson per day, tapos pwede siyang i-reuse technically. Kasi ang gagawin ng bata, ikokopya lang naman nila yung papel sa isa pang papel. Copy, di ba? So, yung original na LAS mo, pwede mong ibalik, pwede mong gamitin ulit. Hindi katulad ng SLM, for example, na sinasagutan talaga ng bata, so hindi na siya magagamit ulit. So that's sort of how we say na mas cost-effective talaga si LAS. At mas madali siyang i-produce. Kaysa yung kailangan mo mag-print ng 30 plus pages, tapos kailangan mong i-haul yun, katulad ng sinabi nga ni Ma'am Donna kanina, kailangan dalhin kung saan-saan. Ito, one page lang talaga siya per lesson per day. Tapos kung per week yun, ilan lang yun, di ba? So it's more cost-effective talaga, and we can run this immediately during emergency situations. So what happens is, magtanong na po kami sa mga regional directors, sa regions po ninyo, kung magkano yung kakailanganin ninyo para implement yung LAS-DLP sa mga affected areas. Tapos, ang gagawin din po namin, mag-release kami ng policy na yung mga FLO funds natin sa regions ay pwedeng gamitin para sa LAS. Yun po. So, pwedeng gamitin yung funding na yun. At kung ubos na po yung funding na yun sa ibang mga regions, pwede silang mag-request ng additional funding sa central office. At kumbaga, ibababa lang ng central office yung additional funds na required ng mga regional offices at mga STOs. Yun. Okay? Kumbaga, ang gusto lang namin sabihin dito ay it's a very cost-effective mechanism talaga kung paano natin ma-ensure na may delivery of learning pa rin sa ating mga estudyante na kahit sa may emergency situation, kahit na may bagyo, kahit walang pasok, or kahit na nasalanta tayo, magagamit pa rin talaga si LAS, si DLP para sa ganitong sitwasyon or even for learning recovery. It's very cost-effective, it doesn't take a lot of resources, and kahit sa mga situations, for example, na kulang tayo ng subject matter experts na teachers, ay magagamit rin po itong LAS through CVIF-DLP po. So we hope that this mechanism actually helps you sa field na to fully recover from, of course, the devastation of Typhoon Kristine, and moving forward, hopefully it will help you then to recover from any future disasters, any. So, yeah. Thank you very much. And if may questions po kayo, please don't hesitate to put it in the chat box na lang po.
Thank you very much, Director Michael Kabawatan. Para po sa mga may tanong, clarifications, concerns, please, sabi nga ni Director, sa chat box o dyan po sa comment section sa Facebook page at YouTube channel ng DepEd Philippines na sinishare ng PLDT and Smart Communities. Yun, I think very clear yung sinabi ni ni director kanina. Again, if you have questions, pwedeng on your own, gawin niyo na po na i-revise halimbawa yung LAS kasi kayo po ang mas nakakakilala sa inyong mga stakeholders, and kung kailangan talaga ng support from the central office, open na open naman ang office ni Director Michael, ang kanyang mga linya. Yun po. Sasagutin niya agad, ano? Tama ba, Director?
So far, 100% naman ang response rate ko. Pero also,
Ayun.
i-bring up ko lang din po, yung contact details po namin ay nandun naman po sa memo na kinascade sa region. So, don't hesitate to contact us for any questions. And just to note also that if you have specific questions like how to implement it, ganon, please just make sure din na usapin niyo po yung school head po ninyo, usapin niyo yung sa SDO po ninyo as to paano nga ba pwedeng i-work around yung situation ng school po ninyo.
Alam mo, Director,
Other questions?
yeah, napapanahon talaga no, yung saktong-sakto talaga. So meron tayong ganitong mga klaseng bagyo, as this time, itong severe tropical storm Kristine, talagang napakita niya kung gaano siya ka-powerful, hindi pa typhoon yun ha. Tapos sakto naman na we have a new secretary na, yun nga, maigi na naghahanap ng mga innovations, at ito ang CVIF na i-present sa mga stakeholders natin, sa mga leaders natin sa government. Kaya po again, this is a good news. Again, hashtag good news. Good news po talaga ito kasi nga gawa na, buo na. Dati naalala ko, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, every time nahihingi yung mga eskwelahan, medyo challenged pa kami kasi nga hindi pa kompleto, tilad-tilad pa, pero this time, buo na po siyang darating sa inyo. That's so good. Hindi na po, naalala ko, Director, kinakwento ng mga lola-lola, pag bibili ka daw ng manok sa grocery store, buhay. Tapos, ikaw pa yung magde-dress ng chicken para maluto mo lang. So, this time, naka-dress na siya, naka-ayos na, naka-slice na nga, naka-marinate pa. So, parang ganun din po ito, no? Lulutuin na lang, i-implement na lang po para tayo mag-enjoy ng isang okay na quality education. Yun po. And we're also praying na maging okay po ang inyong recovery, mapabilis sa mga Kristine hit areas, and then itong Typhoon Marcin nandiyan din po. Patuloy-tuloy na sumisilip, pati ang Mount Canlaon nag-aalboroto sa ngayon. Pero yun po. Sabi nga ni Ma'am Donna kanina, ganun at ganun talaga eh. We have to move on. We have to move and act for the better. Director, baka meron kayong final words, message and encouragement sa ating mga audience.
Sinasagot ko lang kasi may isang nasa chat box nagsabi na hindi pa rin niya ma-access. So, in-email ko na sa iyo yung akin.
Ayan. See, 100% ang response rate. Sige po, Director.
So, ulit, if you have any questions, nandito lang po kami at ang PLDT Smart. So, si Ma'am Emrin din ay magpapadala ng kanyang contact details. If you have questions regarding how it's implemented po in DepEd or how DepEd wants to implement DLP, please feel free to contact us, central office. If you want, kasi unfortunately hindi lang nakasali yung ating Region 10. DLP kasi ginagamit din po siya in a lot of other ways. Nagagamit po siya sa ating ALS successfully sa Region 10. So if you want to reach out regarding how to possibly implement DLP for ALS, you can contact us sa central office or si Ma'am MJ through PLDT Smart Foundation. Nagagamit din po siya, for example, for SPED or SNED now, so special needs education. And yun, it's a very, very exciting sort of program. And we're looking forward to sort of looking into how we can integrate it into DepEd. And we hope you're as excited as we are to do that.
Ayun, maraming salamat po, Director Mick, for that enlightening discussion. We hope that today's event helps you as you also adopt DLP in your schools, especially when you maximize the use of the LAS or learning activity sheets. As we navigate new challenges, we encourage everyone to join us in our mission to improve the lives of Filipinos through education. Ito pong CVIF-DLP ay isa pong crisis resilience strategy that helps advance inclusive and equitable quality education amid certain shortages and other crippling crises in the country. Ini-encourage po namin kayo, no, mga fellow teachers and schools, to attend DLP workshops, which we regularly conduct as a longtime partner of DLP, PLDT, and SMART, organize these capacity building trainings. You may reach us via our Facebook pages and contact details being flashed on screen. Ayan po. So, i-screen grab na po natin yan. As for the readily available learning activity sheets, please direct your attention to the screen where pina-flash na po namin yung mga kung saan pwede ninyong i-download yung mga materials. I think these are the QR codes. Again, we would like to thank the Central Visayan Institute Foundation and DepEd Sarangani for sharing the curated contents for all grade levels for all subjects. Meanwhile, for our attendees who are also interested to roll out DLP in ALS or Alternative Learning System, please directly coordinate with DepEd Central Office via the Office of Director Mick Kabawatan. As we conclude this session, we would like to express our gratitude to all our attendees. Ito po ha, samahan niyo si Mary Jane Francisco, andyan po sa chat box yung kanyang mga contact details from PLDT and SMART na mamumuno po ng kanilang education programs. Let's work together to make a difference. Thank you for your commitment to ensuring that no learner is left behind. Ako po si David, ang host niyo. Take care, stay safe, and learn smart.
Tatalakayin natin sa videong ito ang mga paraan ng paggamit ng CVIF Dynamic Learning Program o DLP sa tatlong konteksto. Una, kung ang mga guro at mag-aaral ay may device at internet. Ikalawa, kung mayroon silang device ngunit limited lang ang internet. At ikatlo, ay kung walang access sa device at internet. Kung may device at internet connection ang guro at ang estudyante. Step 1. Ipapadala ni teacher ang learning activity sheet kada linggo sa mag-aaral gamit ang email o Facebook Messenger o iba pang online platform gaya ng Google Classroom o Microsoft Teams. Step 2. Kokopyahin ng mag-aaral ang natanggap na learning activity sheet sa isang blank sheet of paper. Uunawain ang lesson for the day at sasagutang mag-isa ang required exercises. Ito ay dapat matapos ng mag-aaral sa loob ng takdang oras na nakalaan para sa subject na iyon. Step 3. Kukunan ng litrato ng mag-aaral ang natapos na learning activity sheet at ipapadala ito pabalik kay teacher gamit ang email o Facebook Messenger o iba pang online platform gaya ng Google Classroom o Microsoft Teams. Ang hard copies ng learning activity sheets na natapos ay dapat i-compile ng mag-aaral sa isang folder kada subject. Step 4. Kapag natanggap na ni teacher ang natapos na learning activity sheet, maaari na siyang mag-online discussion sa mga mag-aaral gamit ang Facebook o Zoom o iba pang online platforms upang i-process ang lesson na natutunan ng mga mag-aaral ng mag-isa. Kung may device pero limited ang internet connection ng mga guro at ng mga estudyante, ang ibig sabihin ng limited internet connection ay gumagamit ng mobile data kaya't di maaari ang full online classes. Step 1. Itatype ng teacher ang learning activity para sa Facebook Messenger at ipapadala ito sa mag-aaral. Sa paraang ito ay hindi mababawasan ang load ng teacher at mag-aaral. Step 2. Kokopyahin ng mag-aaral ang natanggap na learning activity sa isang blank sheet of paper. Uunawain ang lesson for the day at sasagutang mag-isa ang required exercises. Ito ay dapat matapos ng mag-aaral sa loob ng takdang oras na nakalaan para sa subject na iyon. Step 3. Itatype ng mag-aaral ang mga sagot sa exercises sa Facebook Messenger at ipapadala kay teacher. Ang hard copies ng learning activity sheets na natapos ay dapat i-compile ng mag-aaral sa isang folder kada subject. Step 4. Kapag natanggap na ni teacher ang sagot sa mga exercises para sa nakatakdang learning activity, maaari siyang mag-discuss sa mag-aaral gamit pa rin ang Facebook Messenger. Kung walang device at internet connection, Step 1. Ipiprint ng teacher ang mga learning activity sheets para sa isang linggo at ipapadala ang hard copy sa mag-aaral. Ito ay maaaring kunin ng mga magulang sa paaralan o di kaya sa tulong ng barangay ay ide-deliver ito sa kanilang bahay. Step 2. Kokopyahin ng mag-aaral ang natanggap na learning activity sa isang blank sheet of paper. Uunawain ang lesson for the day at sasagutang mag-isa ang required exercises. Ito ay dapat matapos ng mag-aaral sa loob ng takdang oras na nakalaan para sa subject na iyon. Step 3. Iko-compile ng mag-aaral ang mga natapos na learning activity sheets sa isang folder kada subject. Step 4. Sa tulong ng mga magulang o ng barangay, ibabalik sa teacher kada linggo ang mga natapos na learning activity sheets ng mag-aaral at papalitan ito ng mga bagong learning activity sheets para sa susunod na linggo. Kahit walang teacher intervention, may matututunan ang mag-aaral basta't ginagawa niya ang mga learning activities na nakatakda. Ang CVIF Dynamic Learning Program o DLP ay maaaring gamiting pamamaraan ng pagtuturo kung may device at internet, kung may device pero limited ang internet, at kahit walang device o internet. Para sa karagdagang impormasyon sa CVIF Dynamic Learning Program, bisitahin lamang ang dlp.ph na website o hanapin lang ang Dynamic Learning Program sa Facebook o magpadala ng email sa learnsmart@smart.com.ph.